Hey everybody, ROTL UK. I am Matthew Turner. Ant is about to join me as well, and we will be here breaking down Seahawks at Lions. Happy Victory Tuesday to you all. I hope you had a fantastic night yesterday and a good weekend overall. Come and say hello in the chat. Get a shout out. Love to hear how your weekend has been, how much you enjoyed yesterday, whether you were there or not. A few people on our Discord channel were there, and it seemed like they had a really good time. And also, good luck to the Tigers, whose opening pitch is about to go, although BBC iPlayer doesn't want to actually start up for me, which isn't ideal. Come on. I do have that on in the background. Tigers going into, I think, and I'm not a baseball guy, 3-game wildcard series all away at the Minute Maid Arena, at Minute Maid Park in Houston. So fingers crossed for them. Ken Stouter says, bring your raw to work day. I love that. I love it. A few other people in the chat already before we went live. Lost Oceans on YouTube. Glad that BS work meeting is over. Hey, gang. And then Ken Stouter talking about potentially for Calvin putting a Megatron logo next to his name on the Ring of Honor. Lots of wide receivers, only one Megatron. Totally agree. McSparrow says LFG, Victory Tuesday, and the good feeling carries on throughout the bye week. It does. This good feeling is going to last for 2 weeks. It can't wait. Can't wait for it. For all the other people to lose who are our competitors, that would be sweet as well. GA2 Skip as well, saying, I don't know how you guys do it, up until like 6 a.m. and then a follow-up pod the next day. I mean, I had a day off, so I've rewatched the game, not in a huge amount of detail, but just enough so that we can talk about it. I mean, if you're mad enough to follow a sport that is on at that time in the morning from this place, you're kind of committing to the bit at this point. So there we go. And Dan Pass says, crikey, what a night. Go Lions. Hell yeah, Dan. 3-1. And, God, it could it have been any better of a game? Like, it was just so fun to watch. I know that the defense kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, but just watching Jared go to work was absolutely fantastic. As here comes Ant. I think. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I am completely screwed. I've been working all day, so I wasn't meant to be. I got a call. Oh, I got a message at like 9:30 last night. My friend's parents who I work for from time to time. One of them was ill, and they're like, "Can you help us in the shop tomorrow?" I'm like, yes, yeah, sure. Had to get up at like 9:30 this morning to get ready for it. I didn't go to bed till about 5:30 because I was too busy shit talking on Twitter.
I saw
As
that.
and yeah, so I'm very tired. I've worked just over 7 hours today, and now I'm spent, I believe is the term.
Well, let's get this show on the road, get it done, and get you to bed, for goodness sake.
Oh, I can manage. I'll be, college football will be back in 2 days. I'll be doing 4 a.m.ers again. It's the life we choose to lead doing this.
Yeah, fair. I was just saying good luck to the Tigers. Opening pitch should be going right about now, so fingers crossed that they can pull out a win.
It's on iPlayer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on BBC if you go through BBC Sport. Nice and easy, so... Yeah, Brent says NFL Network replaying the game right now. Having the replay of the Lions game alongside the Tigers game and then us as well is a perfect trio. What more could you want?
Absolutely.
All right. Should we get the show on the road?
Yeah.
There we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the ROTL UK podcast, episode 294. Oh, such a perfect day. My name's Matthew Turner alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Any victory day is good. Victory Tuesday this week, but it's great. It makes the stupidly late get to bed worth it the next day. I'm completely shattered right now, but I don't care because we won. If we lost, my mood would probably be a lot different. But yeah, I'm doing good.
What a way to finish September up 3-1 through the first 4 games. It's what we were hoping for, what we expected, but they have actually delivered on their opening promise, and we now go into the bye week hoping for our contenders to fall by the wayside. In that gap, we are going to review the Seattle at Detroit Monday Night Football game, but first, what we always do, of course, Discord channel, link in the live chat right now. There was a link in the previous episode as well. I'll try and remember to put one in each audio pod episode that we do now as well. If you want to come and join us there, it's a great place to come and chat Lions all week round. College football podcast, and I know a time for that this week is up in the air, but it was another cracking week of college football.
Yeah, three top 10 teams lost, and there were a whole load of other upsets as well. So, yeah, it was a fun week. We will get to it at some point. Ryan's even worse than we are. He's travelled to Morecambe today to watch Bradford play in the football. It's cold, it's wet, it is raining, and he's gone to the seaside up in the northeast to watch football on a Tuesday night. The man's completely crazy. So. We'll sort out time. Probably be Friday or Saturday, so might be just before the start of next week. So you might have to wait a little longer, but it will come eventually.
Going to Morecambe as well. I mean, you're in Morecambe. What fun! Ugh. Anyway,
it's like what place? It's like Tucson. Like we make jokes about Tucson over in America, just being like this backwards.
Oh, in Arizona.
Arizona. Let's just say it's the Tucson. It's the Tucson of England where he's gone.
I mean, just looking at the college football slate, absolutely mad. I mean, I miss Georgia, Alabama, and I'm gutted about it. But I mean, the Miami VT Hail Mary that wasn't, and loads of stuff to get into this week. I can't wait to listen to you guys.
And you'll get a Ryan's rant because Ole Miss lost and he's put so much stock into them and they've let him down at the first possible opportunity. So that's hilarious. I can't wait for him to lose it to
Kentucky
that.
of all teams. Like, come on.
Yeah, man, they lost by 1 point to Georgia and now they've beaten Ole Miss. I think somewhere inside that disjointed, dysfunctional organization is actually a pretty good football team. You go 1-1 against Georgia and Ole Miss and, you've got a positive net rate as well, then
yeah,
something's right.
Yeah, fair. Right, don't forget to like this episode, sub to the podcast. You guys know what to do. And please do follow Lions Nation Unite. That's Herman Moore's project to bring the best in Lions content creators together and is on their shows all the time with all the content creators as part of that group. So if you want more of him, go and watch Lions Nation Unite. With Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized. There's a tip jar down below in the YouTube description. So if you want to show some love, that'd be absolutely fantastic. But you just being here is more than enough. Let's get into the one bit of news we have, and which is that at halftime in this game, Calvin Johnson was inducted into the Pride of the Lions in a feature that included, I think, over 100 former players. I know that it's been rocky. When we started this podcast, he was almost an ostracized, I don't know, black sheep of the family. And in just 4.5 years, he's a beloved son again. And, he did a lot for this team.
Yeah, they looked like there was a day and age where this was never going to happen. But obviously it's better for us that he has. The fact that it's one of the best things the organization's done, especially under Sheila, is reconnected with its legends. A team is nothing without its history, and now everyone together can move on, and they're just building this wave of momentum where all these guys are in. Barry's here, Spielman's here, Calvin's back, and now he's in the Hall of Fame. And it was quite cool to get to see him. Saw him with Herm, just like, I mean, Christ, what would those two have been like in their heydays, both at their prime together? They'd have been one of the best receiving duos of all time, playing at the same point. But it's like legend meets legend. It was great. It's just nice to see such unity everywhere now. Like, screw everybody else outside of Detroit. It's Detroit versus everyone, but Detroit is a whole now. For years, it's not been a whole, which is why this thing has been so terrible. So, yeah, it was fun. I'm glad he's in, and we wonder who goes in next.
Indeed. All right. Yeah, I grew up absolutely loving Calvin. He was such a big part of the sort of infancy of my fandom of the team. He was, alongside Stafford, the player that I most wanted to see. I remember going and watching the game in London in 2014, 15, where we beat the Falcons on the last gasp field goal. And he was fit for the game before and then got injured and didn't play. And I was the most gutted you can be as a fan. And then to watch the game happen the way it did, it kind of really converted me into a proper fan at that point. But I was so wanted to watch him play, and I never did.
The best receivers in the NFL today still do not command the type of coverage that he did, which just kind of says about everything that you need to know.
The one that came closest was maybe Julio.
Yeah, Prime Julio did used to get a lot, but you think even Prime Michael Thomas when he was at his peak, young DeAndre Hopkins, these guys who were completely and utterly just miles above anybody else still did not command anywhere near the sort of stuff that Calvin did. I mean, could you imagine a Calvin on this team now, like trying to deal? You've got two guys. Well, where the hell are you gonna mark everybody else?
Well, also, if Calvin had someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown to take the volume so that you were taking Calvin in good situations as opposed to chuck the ball up to him every time, he would have looked so much better. Because I know that chuck the ball to Calvin was like the running joke, but you were giving him 50-50s, and then I do think that he gets hammered for making drops throughout his career. Like, he led the league in drops, and it's like, okay, but was he in good situations either? Like, he had an insane volume deep down the field, so you go and have, like, a good career doing that, and obviously he did, but he might have even looked better in history had he had someone like Amon-Ra.
And Stafford throws them so hard, it's like he's trying to take someone's head off. So, like, trying to catch those things, there's no wonder his hands are deformed, because most of his career spent catching from Stafford. Most of his career was catching from Stafford. So, but it makes you think, doesn't it? Like, if you could do all-timer groups, like, from each team, like the Lions having Calvin, Herman, and Amon-Ra. I mean, what a fucking trio of receivers that is. I don't think there are many teams that would be able to levy a trio that good. When Amon-Ra is all said and done, obviously, but if he's on the trajectory he is, there'll not be many teams that can field a better three wide receivers than that in their all-time lists.
Right, let's get on with this game, shall we? Lions run out 42-29 winners in an absolute barnstorm where it was back and forth all the way down. Lions led wire to wire, but, it wasn't without a little bit of squeaky bum time towards the end. Just to kick off with the inactives, and obviously, we knew about Frank not making it, and then Branch missed out through illness. I mean, against a team like Seattle, like Geno Smith, with those receivers and Noah Fant, and then his ability in the box versus runners like Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, missing a guy like Branch isn't exactly ideal in this situation, and it kind of went to show when it came to defending the run in the second half, we really missed him.
Yeah, and the trouble is we don't have Iffy either. So, it's a double blow. Obviously, we've not had him all year, but Iffy's the guy who we love to blitz, and Brian's the one who we bring up against the run. Like, we're missing a lot of versatility in that safety room. Like, the two big components gone. Our ability to blitz the quarterback from the safety position is limited without Iffy. So it was a blow, and it kind of left you thinking about it. But at the same point, it's like you do have confidence in these guys. You do have confidence that we have the depth to absorb this. And the way the D-line's playing at the moment, it almost makes it a bit easier for these guys in the secondary. Geno was having to throw quick. He wasn't able to really try and target these guys deep and get some big chunks out of them, etc. So we were able to get by, and that's a positive for us. But yeah, it was sad that he didn't play. However, I'd rather him be healthy for the rest of the year. If it was an illness, you don't want to exaggerate. If his reactions aren't 100% and he got hit with a bad hit or something like that and knocked out, we would be complaining now. The fact is we've won. All these guys are going to rest up, and likely we're going to have the vast majority of them back by the time we go to Dallas. So I'd rather be precautious with these guys. We have the depth to absorb these hits now. Like not having Anzalone the week before, we got the depth to absorb that kind of hit now, whereas in the past we wouldn't. So we can just play it easier with these guys, and overall it's leading to us having what I would say is a fairly healthy roster given the state of things.
I mean, the other thing to point out then about this game is, when we had last week, the number of injuries that came out of that was pretty gutting. Whereas this week, Carlton Davis left the field for about 2 snaps following an injury, but that's the only thing that I recall. And there's been no news since about any injuries from the game. Obviously, we're not going to get an injury report this week, but what a blessing, Ant, to actually get out of this game with no major injuries.
I know. I did remember the point where I got incredibly concerned was when I saw Levi down on the ground, clutching his back, and then I realized about 2 seconds later that he'd flopped, and I'm like, you bastard. Don't ever do that to me again, Levi. He'd flopped down because he got done for roughing the passer, hadn't he? I think it was roughing the passer.
Yeah.
And someone pushed him off and he flopped, but he was there, and the first thing you saw was him lying on the ground. They're like, oh, it's Levi. I'm like, oh shit, please. Not Levi, anyone but him.
I got really upset because he got pulled off of Gino, and I was like, I thought pulling someone off the pile was
what if he
flag.
was injured? I think that's probably why he flopped a bit to try. But what if he, especially if he hurt his back and someone's pulled him off and just dumped him on the floor? Like if I'd have been his teammate, I'd have gone up and I'd have taken the helmet off and lamped him. But overall, back to it. No major injuries as far as we're aware. So, and that's great. We're going into the bye week. We're going to come out healthy, and we're going to need everyone healthy because this next 3 months, it's going to be a long slog. It's going to be a very long slog, and we're going to need everybody. So to have like as many people as possible fit and ready, you can rotate them more. That's going to help us as the season goes along. And we've done well at managing it so far. If someone's needed a game off, we got the depth to give them a game off, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's positive.
Absolutely. Right, let's talk stats, shall we? This game finished 42-29. The statistical leaders for Seattle, Geno Smith passing. We threw the ball almost as much as Goff did last week. 38 of 56 for 395, a touchdown and a pick. That level of completions, attempts, and yards are the highest in Geno Smith's fairly long career now. He's after 30 years old. So, a significant game for him personally. On the ground, Seattle had almost no joy in the first half. The only thing they had was Kenneth Walker going 4 carries for 6 yards and a touchdown, but they really broke it out in the second half. He ended up with 12 carries for 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. Geno himself had 5 carries for 38 yards, and Zach Charbonnet had 2 for 15. In the receiving game, DK Metcalf was definitely the man. 7 receptions on 12 targets for 104 yards, but all but one of those receptions, I think, was in the first half. Tyler Lockett was 5 of 9 for 61. Their touchdown was scored by former Michigan man AJ Barner, 2 of 2 for 27 and a touchdown. They did have a fumble. DK Metcalf did that. It was forced by Jack Campbell and recovered by Carlton Davis. On defense for Seattle, they were led by Tyrell Dotson with 10 tackles. They had 3 sacks, 1 by Jaron Reed, 1 by Derek Horn, 1 by Draymond Jones, and a further TFL by Tyrell Dotson. They had 4 quarterback hits, which are the aforementioned sacks, along with Devin Witherspoon having a QB hit as well. They had no passes defended in this game. In terms of kicks, Jason Myers missed a long field goal at the end of the first half, but was 3 of 3 on extra points. Michael Dixon was also there as the punter. For the Lions, led by Jared Goff, of course, he was almost perfect. He was perfect to us anyway, hence the name of the show. 18 of 18 for 292, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did eat 3 sacks. It's good for a passer rating, 155.8. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, 1 of 1 for 7 yards and a passing touchdown. On the ground, led by Jahmyr Gibbs, 14 for 78 and 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 12 for 40 and 1 touchdown. Receiving was led by Jameson Williams, 2 of 2 for 80 and a touchdown, and including that big 70-yarder late on. The other touchdown receiving, apart from Jared Goff's one from Amon-Ra St. Brown, was Amon-Ra himself. He was 6 of 6 for 45. We were led in tackling by Kirby Joseph with 9 tackles. The Lions had 3 sacks, 1 by Malcolm Rodriguez, 1 by DJ Reader, and 1 shared by Levi and Aline McNeil. We also had a few tackles for loss in there as well. 1 by Kirby, 1 by Jack Campbell, and 1 by Carlton Davis. We had 9 passes defended in the game, which sounds insane, but they did throw the ball a heck of a lot. 1 by Aline McNeil, 1 by Terrion Arnold, 3 by Carlton Davis, 1 by Alex Anzalone, 2 by Amik Robertson, and 1 by Kirby Joseph. There were 9 quarterback hits. In addition to the sacks, there were 2 for Alex Anzalone and 3 for Aiden Hutchinson. So a heck of a day on defense all around. The interception was by Kirby Joseph to seal things late on. Otherwise, Jake Bates was perfect on extra points, 6 of 6, despite not looking perfect on the kicking tee potentially. And given the high scoring, it was necessarily a pretty high statistical game by all concerned on Seattle and Detroit's side, but Detroit almost the picture of efficiency on offense, passing and rushing the ball in various halves.
Yeah, it's exactly what we wanted to see, right? Said before it yesterday, Ben Johnson, he's got himself a Maserati and he needs to let it leash on the Nürburgring, and the dude strapped nitrous to his already powerful Maserati and just absolutely teared the hell out of everything. It was great, and it was that aggression right at the very beginning. I know the first drive was nothing to talk about, but you get the ball back fairly quickly and then you have a nice solid drive, you score, and then immediately you get the turnover. And then you score again, and we've not seen complementary ball has been our, we've struggled with it for so many years now to play consistent periods of complementary ball, and to do that and to then go and score again, you put yourself 14-0 up early, you put them under a lot of pressure, and that's why you get to the half. And you've got stats where your best rusher is, 4 carries for 6 yards. You put them behind early. They've got to start throwing it through the air. Like you turned them into a one-dimensional team. And the way that Kenneth Walker was playing against us, he was treating us like we were the Michigan Wolverines. It was the fact that we managed to get them so early and put them under, to the fact where they didn't give it him, was a massive advantage to us, because it allowed us to stretch out a big enough lead that when they actually thought, we do have something here, handed the ball off to him, and he is quite special and will do something for us. They just weren't really able to close the gap on us, because we'd able to establish the lead of dominance. And every time they hit back, we scored again. Like when they got it back to 28-20, and you're like, oh, you're back within a score. One play later, we score. We're ahead again. You just keep putting that scoreboard pressure on them, and eventually they'll make mistakes, and they did. And the few mistakes that they made, we made them pay for it. We were just ruthlessly efficient on both sides. I know the defense struggled towards the end, but if you're going to nitpick on the offense on the day, they scored too quick. Like they scored very quickly, and the defense had to go out there for long, prolonged periods of time against a quarterback who, like I say, had a very good day. Geno Smith did, and you've got a core of wide receivers there and tight ends who are incredibly difficult to deal with. And when you have to play 99 defensive snaps, I believe he'll told, with penalties, like that's a lot. That is a lot to ask of your defense. And they're going to get tired, and they're going to make some mistakes. And they did make a couple of mistakes, but ultimately, like we just dominated where we needed to, and we executed where we needed to, and it just put us out of reach. And it was great. We've been looking for that game for a very long time now, and I think we finally got it. And despite what the scoreline says, I'm quite happy with the job the defense did. Like I say, it was just out there a long time. They were having to throw it here, there, and everywhere. And I know Gino set new records and everything, but to be honest, that's never a positive when your quarterback's setting new records for completions and how many times he's thrown the ball, and that it means that you've done something wrong. So that meant that we forced them to do something wrong, which was just throw it too much through the air. So yeah, it was a fun game to watch. It got a little bit nervy at the start of the fourth quarter, but team really just came out and dominated, and they did what they needed to. They went after the bullseye, which was their D-line, which was weakened, and they hammered in at it. That's what good teams do. You find a weakness and you strangle them with it.
Absolutely. Just to say, I know that everyone's talked about this already, but why not repeat? Jared Goff set the record for most passing attempts without an incompletion in a single game in NFL history with 18 for 18. As Kurt Warner pointed out, you have to have 20 completions in order for it to be a completion percentage record, which means he doesn't hold that, unfortunately. But he does have the longest game without a completion in terms of completion. So that is really, really something. As the Tigers go 1-0 up, and it could be 2, and it is 2. Nice. Tigers 2-0 up top of the second. All right, let's talk about this game a little bit more. We'll go through sequentially as we always do, just talk about things a little bit more. We're then going to talk about players of the day and some other game themes before talking about the rest of the weekend's games. And we started with the Lions winning the toss and choosing to receive, which is a bit of a difference to how they've done things in the past in this season. Obviously, last year they enjoyed taking the ball first, but this season they've decided to defer a lot. And they changed things today. And they took the ball, and it wasn't the best start. Got into 3rd and 6 straight away. And then great coverage. Goff held the ball a long time. Good pass protection, generally speaking. And then when they did break through, Goff tries to escape after holding the ball for really too long. He probably should have got rid of it at that point. And Jaron Reed got his sack on the 3rd play of the game. There was a punt, which was well returned by Seattle, but holding set them back for their first drive. And the very first pass felt like it was a spectre of things to come. An amazing throw by Geno to DK Metcalf against Carlton Davis, and just toe tap on the sideline, get yourself 20 yards. It just felt like they were going to be able to progress down the field quite quickly like that, but it wasn't to be. Alex Anzalone was actually lining up at Sam early on, which was a move that we didn't expect coming. Obviously, he's played a lot of the Will and the Mike over the years in Detroit. That's a new wrinkle for him, a new feather in his cap. A 3rd and 11, a pass to DK Metcalf underneath for 8 yards, but a good tackle by Malcolm Rodriguez meant the end of that drive. So we went 3 and out, but they then had to go 3 and out. No, not 3 and out, 4 and out, but never mind. And then they punted down to the Detroit 7. And here's where things really get running for Detroit. So after taking the ball, going 3 and out is an absolute disaster. But they get it back. And then on the second drive, the run game really gets going. They get some big holes in there. The run blocking is absolutely perfect. And the Goff play action then comes into its own. So notably, he had a play action play with a runner just coming straight through the middle. I have to assume that Graham Glasgow whiffed on a block there somewhere, so a free rusher coming through the middle. And he did this awesome little kind of pirouette going to the blind side and then quickly released up the middle to Amon-Ra. I can't remember who it was to, actually. I'll say Amon-Ra, but that might have been wrong. But it was to someone over the middle. And then there was a play action throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle as well. It was a nice deeper pass. Monty then with so much room to run down to down, inside and out, progressing all the way down the field. 2nd and 7, Gibbs with a massive hole for 21 yards to get down at the 4. And then from the 4, we go run, and we get down to 3rd and goal from the 1, and Monty just keeps his feet up for the 1-yard touchdown. PAT is sliced, but good. Detroit up 7-0. Seattle's second drive, great PBU by Arnold on Lockett. Jackson Smith and Jigba then gets the first down. Looked like it could have been OPI on a pick play, which was called later on, but not this time. Nice throw over the middle to Bobo for a chunk play. Then a great catch by DK Metcalf. It was actually nullified, though, by an ineligible downfield penalty and a DPI by Carlton Davis on the catch by DK Metcalf. But following that, another throw to DK Metcalf, and he beat 3 or 4 people. Tackling was really poor here, but he kept himself up trying to get these extra yards. And Jack Campbell comes in with an absolutely massive hit and forces a fumble. And Carlton Davis is there to scoop it up and takes it 49 yards to the Seattle 14 before being just saved by Kenneth Walker III. He was going to walk that in for a touchdown if Ken didn't make that effort. So really good effort by him. And then Detroit start in the red zone. 2nd and 9, nice throw to Brock Wright for 10 yards means that they are in a very short situation to end the first quarter, and Gibbs walks it in the very next play. Awashika with an incredible block to create the space for Jahmyr Gibbs. Big highlights on TV. I suspect you'll see Brian Baldinger breaking that down today or tomorrow because it was a heck of a play by our O-line. And the PAT, again sliced, but good, and 14-0 it was. So Seattle take over on their third drive, and a couple of third downs here go very well for them. 3rd and 7, Geno flushed under pressure outright. Nice pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba for 10. Hutch did have a hand literally inside the face mask. It wasn't much. Think of the hands to the face penalty where you're getting them around the neck. This was literally a hand near his eyes within the grill. It was so bad that it was missed, I can't even tell you, but never mind. Following getting a new set of downs, they had another 3rd down and 7. Gino trying to escape. He did actually get the first down, but they're flagged for a hold. Detroit are flagged for a hold on Carlton Davis versus DK Metcalf. Sorry, Gino didn't get the first down. We got the penalty on that. And that flag for a hold was egregiously bad as well. So DK Metcalf runs into Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis falls over. DK Metcalf falls over onto Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis called for holding. Now, Carlton Davis cuddles DK Metcalf on the way down because he's literally falling on top of him. I don't know what you're meant to do in that situation if you're Carlton Davis, but you can't just run into people. I can't speak on how much that should have been some sort of offensive penalty. Illegal contact. Can that be an offensive penalty? I don't even know. It can't be pass interference because the ball wasn't in the air. It's not holding, but it's something. You can't just run into someone holding their ground. It's stupid. But anyway, so we get a flag. They get a new set of downs. Ridiculous. So they get away with the hand inside the face mask and then that. But then Walker with an amazing play. So he's going to be tackled short of the sticks, but he never goes down. He's rolling around on someone, and then he does like a headstand to get back over. The helmet never actually touches the ground. He carries on and manages to get the first down. I do think we also had a flag on that play. It was Houston being offside, which was unfortunate, but never mind. Massive throw then to DK Metcalf for 30 yards, beating Carlton Davis in the slot. He beat him off the snap. It was not an ideal play. Actually down at the 1, it was called a touchdown at the time, but then on review, it was at the half-yard line. And then on first down and goal from the 1-yard line, they went really quick to try and catch Detroit with 12 men on the field, which they did. But what was missed was the centre literally false starting in the most egregious way I've ever seen. Like, when you watch it back, watch for this, because it's not just a flinch, it's a full-on move. So they're trying to catch us, but it should have been offsetting penalties. Who cares? It's from the 1 anyway. It probably wouldn't have made any difference. So we bottled them up in that play, even with all of that happening. First down and inches as a result. Hutchinson then wrecks the tight ends, pushes them all the way back into Walker, but Walker actually bounces outside the other way for the touchdown. PAT is good. Detroit lead 14-7. Detroit's fourth drive. 2nd and 2, Goff does great to evade pressure and checks it down to Sam Laporta, who has a sidestep. And because of the sidestep, the guy tries to grab him and actually grabs his face mask. That tax on 15 puts us instantly in scoring territory. Gibbs bounces outside on the far side of the field for 10 yards, just completely untouched. 3rd down and 2, play action check down on the near side of Sam Laporta for 6, getting towards the goal line now. Goff play action, throwbacks across the body to Amon-Ra St. Brown to the 1. So the play action was actually taking Goff on a naked bootleg to the left-hand side with only one receiver running that way. And Goff, with all his momentum going to the left-hand side, throws across his body to get back to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who'd got himself some room near the posts without really even moving. It was like he was trying to find space and zone. It was a really interesting play, actually, I think, for the Lions. And then we caught them with 12 men on defense, which put it, all the way down to the half-yard line. And then the very next play, Gibbs lowers the shoulder, walks in for the touchdown. PAT is good. This time, much better PAT. Hit it true. 21-7 lead for the Lions. Seattle's fourth drive, Malcolm Rodriguez as Sam comes completely unblocked for a sack on Geno Smith as 6. He then throws it away on 2nd and 16 under pressure. But maybe one of the plays of the game on 3rd and 16, a lovely, what looked like underneath throw to Jackson Smith and Jigba with blockers out in front of him as a wide receiver screen almost. But Smith and Jigba about 6 or 7 yards downfield then throws a lateral to Charbonnet from it must have been 10 yards away, but it was very well executed. And Charbonnet taking it with speed managed to get upfield on the near side for the first down. Arnold then with a lovely tackle on the far side on Zach Charbonnet. PBU then by Jack Campbell, although holding was called on Pharaoh Brown on that play, which was accepted. So I don't know if Jack's actually going to get credit for that one. 2nd down and 18 as a result, and Charbonnet got 8 to get back to 3rd and 10. Looking for DK Metcalf, who didn't make the reception on 3rd and 10, but was looking for DPI from Carlton Davis and didn't get it this time. They punted, and Raymond, despite being completely surrounded by players, didn't call fair catch, which I think caught Seattle by surprise, and he managed to return it for about 4 or 5 yards. With a minute to go now, Detroit from their own 15, holding on Sewell and Decker called. Goff then sacked by Derek Hall. Lions wanted a horse collar tackle. you can see why, because it's not great for your quarterback to be handled like that, but there's no such thing as a horse collar in the pocket, so it stood, much to Ford Field hating the decision. Calls 4th and 11, punt by Fox down at Seattle's 39. There was about 20 seconds left, and with 20 seconds left and no timeouts, they managed to get from their own 39 into field goal range, fringe field goal range. Myers tried a 62-yard attempt, which was short. Dorsey returned it to the 21 with the clock expired. So there was a face mask, which would have allowed the Lions to get to their own 36 and have an untimed play, but they decided to take the half there at 21-7. I'm going to stop there. And we obviously scored 3 touchdowns in that first half, and it felt like we were moving the ball very, very well. Goff had to escape a little bit of pressure here and there, but looked fantastic doing it. There was some really good kind of decision-making on his part. We were running the ball really well, and they only had 6 yards on the ground. It was about as good as it could get, I think.
Yeah, and they kept it fresh. They mixed it up. You know, Jameer was in, Monty was in. It wasn't just using one of them for prolonged periods of time. It was constantly rotating the running backs in and out. It was finding different receivers, keeping them guessing, different types of plays. And then that's what we've got. We've got such a large arsenal at our disposal that, you know, we've kind of scratched our heads as to why we've not maximized it and used it as much as we'd like. But in this one, they did. And Seattle were really struggling to deal with this. Now, you know, in their defense, not having your starting D-line doesn't help because it allowed our O-line to get a lot of push in the run game. I mean, they weren't just creating lanes. They were creating entire postcodes for our guys to run through. Like, they were boring out some holes in there, and it just allows us to play such better football. But, you know, when you get a rhythm going, when you're feeling it, your players are confident as well. Like, you go 3 and out a couple of times to start a game, everyone's cold, everyone's flat, everything's clunky. But you could see it with Goff, like you said, from early on. Like, completing passes, looking good under pressure. The twirl throw was awesome. Like, the way he knew where he was throwing. He set himself instantly and threw it in just 2 swift movements when he's getting rolled around. That is top class from him, that is. And you kind of just got a feeling then, like, yeah, they're feeling it today. They're moving the ball well. You know, so you just keep putting them under pressure. The scoreboard pressure is the biggest thing in the world that you want. And every time they hit back, the most important thing was we hit them again when they got their touchdown. It was like, okay, they're back into this. Let's not lose this momentum now. We've got a score lead. You go straight out on the next drive. You put a touchdown down, and then all of a sudden that lead's restored, and everything they've gone through to get back into it, you've just erased. And I just really like that about it. The defense, I thought the defense was incredibly good in the first half. I thought it was for most of the game. Jack and his big play, like, he's just, every week you see the player he's becoming there. Like, this, I know, so I'm biased here, but I think we've got maybe the best young linebacking group in the entire NFL right now, because what we're seeing is patience with these guys. Linebackers take a long time to develop. We've seen Barnes this year, looks great. Malcolm's come in, he's making plays. Malcolm looks terrific in relief. Jack looks great. Anzalone, a little rusty, a little bit rusty, maybe unfair on him. Missed a couple of tackles and whatnot, but he's coming back from his concussion. I don't blame him too much. I think with Anzalone at the helm of these 3 young rookies, we've got the best young room in the league. And these guys are starting to show it now. Like, say, teams are not even trying to run it through us at this moment in time. And every time they did, every time they tried to target them, you know, they didn't get much. They were targeting the corners. They were going aggressive against them. And why wouldn't you? You'd try so. But I love what the D-line did. I love what the linebackers did. You know what? I love what the secondary did as well. You know, like you said, we had 9 pass breakups in this game. We had a lot of flags. However, for years and years and years, we've been complaining, or I've been complaining, that we've been sat off guys and we're just giving them too many easy completions. We're letting them move the ball. We're conceding points too quick because just of our standoffish nature and approach. When you ask for a change of that, when you ask for them to come up into man more, when you ask for more skirmishes, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get penalties, which is an unfortunate part of the game, but it's the style you play, it's the way you play, you live and you die by it. And I would prefer this than what I've seen over the last 3 years. I want my guys up there making plays. I want them scrapping. I want them. DK is an amazing wide receiver. Like, that first catch he made, he's the world's most butch ballerina. Like he's just on his he's on his tiptoes and he's graceful, but he's built like a tank. But even he was struggling. Like he was like they'll say they dominated him, but they were giving him a lot of problems, and they were having to fight for all their completions, even though they got a lot of yards on us. Every single play they were having to fight for it, and every time they got the ball, we swarmed them. Honestly, it was like a swarm of wasps. Every time one of them got a ball, people just in at them, fighting with them. I want that sort of football. If it gives away a few more penalties, then screw it. I don't care. I do not care about the penalties on Terrion one bit. This is a young man who is performing very well right now. He's going through trial by combat. He's been in the NFL a month. He's faced Cooper Kupp. He's faced Mike Evans. He's faced DK Metcalf. These are some of the best wide receivers in the NFL. These are some of the most elite talent this league has got going, and that's not going to change. He's got CD Lamb and Justin Jefferson coming up next. But the more he's exposed to these guys, the more he's going to learn. And there was some really good breakups from him in this one. The one he got officially credited for was in the first. It was really good. He undercut a route, looked great. He's very sticky. I think he performed really well, especially in the first half. He didn't have a penalty called on him in the first half. Like the first half of this game and the second half of last game, you've seen complete halves of performances from him when he's looked damn good. Now in the second half, they started getting mean to our corners. Some of them were called right, not going to lie, but some of them, especially towards the end, they were calling them for nothing. At least I reckon two of Arnold's were dubious. One absolutely was. Two could have gone either way, but anyhow, back to the point of them being aggressive. I liked it because even though like Gino was getting the ball out quick, but they weren't able to complete a lot of these passes because we were just on them. Whereas before, he'd have had an easy out to a tight end, he'd have had an easy out to a slot receiver. We'd have just kept bleeding yards. That's what we did against them last year. We bled yards. But this year we didn't, and we got the takeaways and we took advantage of it. So it was a really good first half. Offense looked good, defense looked good, and you're 21-7 up at the half, and that's a good half's work. That is against a very good team. I will give Seattle their dues in this. They are a damn good team, and I don't want to see them again this year. So I couldn't have really asked for much more in that half.
Yeah, I agree massively on the coverage. Especially even compared to what we've seen in the early part of this season. The zone coverage that we've been running, which are giving these easy completions where people are just finding the gaps in those zones, wasn't working. And what we did is transitioned into something where, okay, maybe they get some DPIs or some holds here or there, but when it works, we are applying pressure, we are making those PBUs, and we're making them earn every yard, whether it's us giving it to them or them making some great plays. But we're giving ourselves the opportunity to do something about it.
Exactly. These are three of the most talented receivers. This is one of the best wide receiver tandems you will come across, trios. Like three. Like you've got one at the top of his game, one of the most reliable in the game in Lockett, and one of the best youngsters in the game. They will burn you every now and then. Like they just will.
Yeah.
But the uber aggressive approach of it was great. I want to see my guys go head to head with them. I just don't want to see them giving up easy completions and then taking them down after 2 or 3 yards. Screw that. And the only time we did do it, I got really mad with was just before the end of the half when they tried the field goal. Like 5 seconds left. Obviously, they're going to try and throw it towards the perimeter for a few yards. And we sat 10 yards back. And I'm there going, what the fuck? They're not going to throw it 60 yards, right? Why are we sat 10, 12 yards back? Because we gave them 5 or 6 yards. If they'd have let that field goal in, I'd have been mad. But outside of that, they were great. And I love it. I love seeing the guys battle. And, it's what you want to see. Let them fight. Both teams, and it's good football.
Yeah, I mean, before the play where they got the cheap 3 or 4 yards to get them in field goal range, Gino ran for 12 and just wasn't even close to being touched. It was a really weird set of plays.
They went into prevent.
Yeah.
Like, don't go into prevent. You've given up 7 points in a half. Like, that's it. And one of them was because, busted coverage. Don't go away from it. Just keep being aggressive. They're trying to nick some cheap points before the half. Okay, you've got to earn them.
Absolutely. Okay, second half. And here proceeded 5 straight touchdowns on possession. So absolutely nuts. That was 25 plays in total by Seattle to 6 from Detroit in those 5 touchdowns, 3-2 in favour of Seattle. So crazy sequence with the Lions maintaining the majority of their leads. But man, the Lions defence started looking gassed after this point. So 6th drive for Seattle. Great tackle by Kirby on Ken Walker. Forced a 3rd and 5 early on. 4 yards for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Really good tackle there to stop him short. But a 4th and 1. They went for it from their own 35. And the sneak was successful. For all the world they were going to do it. And Ash pointed out on the coverage live, there's a big gap in the defensive tackles. Why are they just not going to walk through that? Which is not ideal when it's called out live, but never mind. Carlton Davis then had a PBU against DK Metcalf. He almost picked it, so the throw was a little bit behind where DK was, and Carlton broke on it. He should have had it, unfortunately, but never mind. 3rd and 8, and DK does a shallow crosser underneath a drag route for 9 yards to get a new set of downs. Throw over the middle to Fant for 16, and then Carlton Davis got a DPI at the Detroit 9 against DK Metcalf over the middle. He was incensed and had to go at refs several times after that call. He did have an arm around DK Metcalf. I don't believe he was massively interfering with the play, but it was so painfully obvious that they were going to call that. He had to be dragged away by his own teammates, and he was risking getting unsportsmanlike conduct.
Arnold went across and took him away. That's senior leadership from a young player there to take his veteran away. But it's like, come on, my man. I love you, CD, but
yeah,
that was the most blatant. If you put your arm around him like he's your best mate, they're gonna call it. Like, I don't care whether you're barely touching him or not. They are gonna call that. Like, I thought they'd pinged him for something else. Then we're like, oh no, it's pass interference. I'm like, clearly, like. Don't be. That was like a Gardner Johnson thing to do. Don't be like Gardner Johnson. Just accept it. That was the one that you really should have been called for.
I think with the way that he acted after that, he could have had a proper kind of heads gone moment where he's not really focusing on the game anymore. I think it's to his credit.
Jamie Collins nutted the ref in the... Well, I say nutted, but when Jamie Collins got in the face of a ref and gently lent his head into him and the ref ejected him.
Yeah.
It could have been something like that, maybe. It's like, it was... I must say, I was very impressed with Arnold getting in there really early. That's maturity from a young man right there to get his mate away from it. So,
but even what I mean from Carlton afterwards, when you have that sort of moment and you're still in the game, you've then got to think about covering the guy again. And the fact that he didn't let the fact that his head went get to him in the following plays, I thought was really impressive. Or at least he wasn't the ones at fault when the touchdowns came.
Because if there's one receiver who gets in your head, it's DK. Like, he thrives on getting in your psyche and messing around with you.
He's an emotional individual, and he clashes with other emotional individuals, which means he's also at risk from it as well. DK is a crybaby, right? So
he is. But if there's one person you don't want winding you up, and you can't show that you're wound up against DK, otherwise he'll hone in on that.
Yeah,
he'll put a bullseye on your head, and he'll be like, right, I know you're feeling a bit frisky now, so I'm going to get in there, and I'm gonna make you make a mistake. Hence why, again, the rookie coming over and taking him away from that situation, for me, I really like, because it's like, okay, he's getting to you, take a breath, let's crack on, move on.
There we go. All right, so first down and goal from the 9 after that. Gino with the play-action pass underneath to AJ Barner, who just walked in for the touchdown. Anzalone, I think, was meant to be in coverage there. He bit on the run fake, unfortunately, as you said, and a bit rusty, perhaps. PAT was good, and it made it a 7-point game, 21-14. So the Lions come out, having conceded the touchdown. It's the third quarter. Oh no, what are we going to do? We're going to score a touchdown. Goff checks down to Monty, who has the most amazing angry run for 40 yards. Absolutely levels Devon Witherspoon, who is going to get fined. I'm just saying now, if he doesn't get fined, I'm going to lose my shit, because he leads with the crown of the helmet hitting Montgomery. So he's a defensive player. It's his responsibility, apparently, because Brian Branch got fined for the bloody thing last week. Witherspoon's need to get fined for that hit. Anyway, Monty absolutely finishes his career. Thanks, Devon, but, you know, you've had a good year or so, but bye, you're done. he managed to get 40 yards out of it. Goff then with a lovely check down to Tim Patrick after finding a little bit of space, who gets big yak, about 15 yards of it, to get all the way down to the Seattle 7. So in double quick time, the Lions are already in an and goal situation. Monty toss outside for no gain, made it 2nd and goal. A fake handoff tossed to Amon-Ra St. Brown behind him, who then releases upfield to pass to Jared Goff for the touchdown. Amazing play by Detroit. Apparently it's been in the playbook the last 3 years, but they've not had the opportunity to actually use it. PAT was good. Again, sliced, but still went through. 28-14 ball game, therefore. So Seattle, having done good work in that first drive, need to go back to work 2 scores down. But they do just that. Amazing kickoff by Jake Bates, I will say. It landed at the 1 and went into the end zone for a touchback. So they actually came out at the 20, which is the first time Detroit have managed that this season, I think. Walker with an amazing run outside on first play of the drive there for 18 yards. Gets all of that yardage back, so all the way down to the 38. Then Seattle have a busted play, so Gino's meant to hand it off to the running back who just isn't there. So he gets forward and slides down for 2 yards. Gino realised it quickly and actually acted decisively. I was actually really impressed by Gino's poise in that moment. Gino then, under pressure, throws the ball away, kind of in the direction of a receiver, but not really. But it's not a grounding, of course. Why would it not be? 3rd down, therefore. Kirby brings pressure, hits Gino pretty hard, but can't bring him down, who gets free and manages to get it to Jackson Smith-Njigba for the 1st down. Walker then reversing, walks into the line of scrimmage, walks into a load of Lions, tries to reverse course, goes backwards 6 yards, and then slips. So loses 6 yards. So it's 2nd and 16, almost as good as a sack, that. But a great throw on that 2nd and 16 by Gino to lock it over the middle for 30 yards to get down to the Detroit 16. Arnold then had a holding call. I think that one was legit. And then Gino, an amazing throw and catch to Jake Bobo, who stumbled at the start of the route but managed to get back up to make an incredible snag. High points it. It's an absolute dart by Gino. The fact he held on to it was really impressive. That was downed at the 1, and Ken Walker again from the 1 gets a touchdown. I mean, is he Jamal Williams in disguise? I don't know, but he's nicking them all from the 1 yard line. So he got through the middle and managed to keep himself up with that. And here comes maybe one of the most interesting parts of the entire game. So this makes it a 28-20 ball game. They could go PAT here. There's still 3 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. But they decide to go for 2, which is something that you would normally do late in the game. The analytics will tell you if you're down 2 scores and score a touchdown to go for 2. So they go for 2 here. It's a bit premature, but sure, why not? So they throw a goal line fade to DK Metcalf against Carlton Davis. Davis interferes. Probably an okay call. DK catches it. Doesn't get the 2nd leg in. Appears to potentially get a knee down. But they said on the coverage, the referee said it should have been called a good 2-point conversion. I think the knee contacted the line as well as the in-goal area. So I think it was a good no call. But it certainly wasn't looked at, so it could have been a good 2-point conversion. As it was a half-distance penalty for the DPI to get down to the 1, and they ran the same play. Apart from this time, it was Jake Bobo on that side against Carlton Davis. The throw wasn't as good this time, and Bobo basically had no shot. Carlton was still pretty handsy with Jake Bobo, but this time, no holding or DPI call was given, and so the Lions suddenly have an 8-point cushion and can't go behind from this situation. So a bit of a let-off potentially, a weird decision certainly by Seattle at that point, and the Lions come out for the 7th drive and they only need 1 play to score. Goff with a play-action quick throw to JMO, and Seattle bring the house. Like, they are bringing a blitz, which they do rarely. And it's really well picked up by the Detroit offensive line. They give Goff time, who throws quickly, but they were really coming at him. And JMO runs this lovely route from the left-hand side where he kind of squares it off over the middle of the field before turning upfield towards the corner. Perfect timing on it. It's hit him in stride. It's going at about 19 miles an hour already. Gets up to about 21. Just absolutely burns people. He starts hot stepping from like the 35, 40 yard line. And then as he walks in for the touchdown, dunks the ball over the post. Gets an unsportsmanlike penalty, but an homage to Megatron. It was very, very well done. It means that the PAT comes from the 48-yard line because of the 15-yard penalty. But we know Jake Bates is money for that sort of distance. I mean, I don't know why we don't get unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on every extra point, because it would make him easier for him, to be honest. But there we go. So he's money. There was no problem with that at all. And the Lions are up by 15 now, 35-20. And I will stop after this next drive just to catch my breath. Seattle's 8th drive to stop this run of touchdowns. Awful tackling against Kenneth Walker on an outside handoff. He maybe should have got 7 or 8 with good blocking, but he actually broke about 4 tackles to get a gain of 23. Gino then sacked by DJ Reilly as he tried to escape up the pocket. It was almost a fumble caused by Christian Haynes. Haynes walked into the ball that Gino was holding, but fortunately for Gino, he managed to have his knee down before any of this happened. Next play after the sack, and LaVisca Chenault converts for a first down, just waltzing through the middle. It was a bit unfortunate for us, I think, that we let him do that. 2nd down and 10 from the 21. A toss to Walker, who goes through the middle of the formation. It was a bit more of a vertical toss. He just kind of goes up the gut and then bounces it outside for a 21-yard touchdown. The Detroit defense completely vacated, but bear in mind they've been on the field for basically the entire third quarter at this point. PAT's good, and Detroit lead 35-27. I'll do one more series. Detroit's 8th drive goes run, and then a toss play to Monty for a loss, and a 4th and 3 means we have to punt away to the Seattle 21. I'll stop there, and they've run all the plays in the world. Our defense is tired, and then we run a poor series of plays which gives them the ball back, only 1 score down. At that point, it was the first time in my heart I thought, oh, could this be turning against us? But what a third quarter. For all of the stuff that's talked about the third quarter and there's no points, we saw 5 straight touchdowns. It was incredible.
Yeah, and you know, it's easy to be critical here with some of the stuff went on, but you've got to give kudos to the Seahawks here. Like, they have been absolutely battered in the first half on both sides of the ball, and they have not really played that well up to this point. And for them to come out and the aggression that they have, you know, you have a 4th and 1 on your own 35, 3rd and 8. You know, you are put in bad situations, and every time you're able to respond, and you know, you start taking a few shots downfield, you start taking advantage of our corner's been a little bit grabby on some of these. You give yourself an opportunity to be able to make plays, and you score points, and you do it. You know, you take a bit of time off the clock, you gas our defense. That's the way you're going to beat us, is you're going to tire the defense out, and you know, really good for that. For us, I mean, obviously, I love our response. I'd rather us score a touchdown in 30 seconds than no touchdown in 3 or 4 minutes and take some time off the clock. But it was we were relentless. The offense just went to work. It's where it's been so quiet in the past. It feels like, you know, Monty's run sparked them right away. Sometimes I think they need a spark just to get them into the mood of things. And when Monty, very first play, pulls that 40-yard run out, which wins him his 3rd Angry Run Scepter of the year. I think it's 3rd.
Yeah.
Like,
2 scepters, but 3 nominations.
That invigorates the team. And then instantly you're like, yeah, 40 yards, you get them on the back foot. You hit one to Tim Patrick, you keep them going further. And then, you know, you pull out the trick play, which nobody's expecting, which is just like this thing of pure beauty. And it was funny because I put it up earlier. I saw the conversation they had in September last year on Sid Brown's podcast, where Jared Goff's like, yeah, you're not the 4th quarterback on this team, am I right? And you see the look on his face and you're like, yeah, he's been letting that brew for a year. He's been practicing throwing for a year for that, and he's going to want to get Goff back on the podcast now and be like, so who's your quarterback number 4 on this team now? But I love it. This team sort of push one another to be better, and it was just, that is how you get a defense off its feet. Big chunk play, one over the top, throw the trick play out. They can't get set. They've got no idea it's coming. That is how inventive our offense can be. And that's how deadly it can be when you utilize it as such. And it was great to see from Ben. No just run up the middle, you know, completion 3 yards short of the sticks, punt type stuff. You reach down into the bag and you find a little bit of inspiration. You love it. But again, you sort of have to give credit to the Seahawks. They come back again. They put themselves in a lot of 3rd downs. their receivers are always finding a way to make themselves open to be able to, get them out of these sticky situations. For us, we've had problems with seconds and thirds and longs for a long time. Still got a little bit of an issue with them now, but the big thing is they got Kenneth Walker involved, which kind of meant we had to stack the box a little more and kind of had to leave guys a little bit more one-on-one. And that's the unfortunate, but that's where it came into it. They're like, oh, actually, we've got something with him here now. And Kenneth Walker, as I said earlier, decided that like he just has a hard on for touchdowns when he's in the state of Michigan. He loves scoring touchdowns in this state, and he's just an absolutely fantastic player. And when he's going, and you've got that triumvirate of wide receivers going, it's very hard to stop them. And they score again, fine. I didn't think it was a 2-point conversion. See, what I'm always taught while I watch college all the time is it's not a catch until you've got control over the ball. When the ball technically gets into his hands, both his feet are on the ground, or his knee and a foot are on the ground, but you've got to take possession of it and have it in your hands first and have it possessed. By the time he's properly got it possessed, his knee's out the air and he's going out of bounds. I actually think that's the right call in this situation. But even so, Seahawks fans bitching about this. One play later, you're a score down again. That made zero difference. Like, you scoring that 2 points does nothing to this game apart from maybe make it 2 points closer. And that pass was just amazing for JMO. They showed the highlights earlier. It's Amon-Ra who gets with a spoon out of position by running a crosser in the other direction. It only takes 3 steps in because he's watching Amon-Ra, and then JMO just turns on the guns and you're just not stopping him. You're not stopping him in a straight foot race, let alone when he's got a couple of steps on you. But it's a great play design. It's brilliantly executed by Amon-Ra, and that just gets JMO open. And that's what JMO can do. Doesn't have to be a big moon ball 50 yards down the field. Just get him 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. Let him get the other 70 because he's that good. I loved the cockiness in his celebration. I loved the dunk. Screw the penalties. The top receivers have egos, and I want to see his ego on show. I want to see him being cocky. I want to see him giving it a little bit of large, because that's the type of receiver he is. And we cannot suppress that urge in him. Otherwise, we'll not get the receiver that we want out of him. But again, you think how much effort and pain Seattle have put into getting back into that game. For one play later for it to be gone again. That's what we've not done enough of over the years, is twist the knife down, keep the scoreboard moving up to make it seem ultimately futile for the team chasing us. So then you've got to go back out again. And you know what? Fair play to them. They do really well. At this point, they've discovered that Kenneth Walker is just an absolute stud. And they're just like, right, we're going to give it you. We're going to give it you. And it's all him. Like, he has to do a lot of running outside of the tackles, a lot of running down the field. Not going to toot my horn here, but the Seahawks did start running the ball better when Christian Haynes was on that line. And Christian Haynes is very good at motioning out and blocking downfield, which he was able to. And I was crying every time I saw him. He didn't start the game, but I know he came in the second half, and that's when they start playing a lot better. So maybe keep him in there, Seattle. But I hate you forever for taking him.
Considering how badly Bradford has been playing at that right guard spot, I don't understand why he hadn't come into the game earlier, to be honest. But never mind.
Nope. And like I say, his thing is movement, getting out into space, blocking for his running backs downfield, and he did. Like, he fits that scheme so perfectly, and he fits Kenneth Walker so perfectly. But like, this was just 2 very good teams taking shots at one another, doing it in different ways. One team a little short-handed, just going the little more elongated route and having to establish their own game. Us are just taking shots downfield and being brave and just mismatching and using our plethora of weapons. They say first up it's Monty and then it's JMO. Just keep spreading the love, keep them guessing, keep them on their toes, and they couldn't deal with it. And those, I know they had 3 touchdowns in that period, but the fact that we had 2, we already had a 14-point lead. You're just always keeping them at arm's length. They're the plucky, scrappy, the scrappy do, and you're keeping him where he can't get at you. So it was a great set, and it was much better from us. And, I don't blame the defense, because they will have been getting tired. Like our 2 drives combined can't have taken more than like a minute or two, really given, and they're just getting 4 or 5 minutes. They're starting to run the ball. It hurts, and we got a few knocks on there. We're missing our safeties who are good at this sort of stuff as well. That's where that hurt. We're missing the guys specifically in there, but the fact we kept the scoreboard moving was good, and yeah, got it. But give credit to them; they played well.
Absolutely. I mean, the way that they came out, especially in that third quarter, it was when they were down 14 points. They put a game script together to win the game against a lesser team. They would have won this game playing the way that they did. So you have to give props to them because they put together a winning formula. It didn't win this game, but I think that Seattle come out of this game with even more credit than they had before it because, frankly, their calendar was full of cakewalks, which actually they made a bit of a meal of early on. They were an unbeaten team, but I don't think anyone was really fancying them as a really good team after the first 3 games. And now Detroit, in 2 major publications, are the #1 ranked team in football. And Seattle really, took us the distance. We're looking at where we are in this game right now. So Detroit have just gone 3 and out in an 8-point game. And we're going into the start of the fourth quarter. I just was saying to you, Ant, just now, did you feel like the game was starting to go against us a little bit? The way that Seattle have just got 3 straight touchdowns and it's an 8-point game, it doesn't feel entirely comfortable at this point.
No, I went and got my Cardiac Cats kit out of the cupboard. Like I said, I was at that point. Up until that point, I'd not felt threatened. But the way they were able to start moving the ball, and again, it's that sort of vicious cycle that we're moving the ball so quickly on offense, the defense doesn't get a chance to catch up, and then they hit back. But I think it's mainly like we took the lead last year, and they hit back on us last year, and we couldn't keep the scoreboard moving, and they eventually were able to over. I've got scars from past games with these teams, so I think it was more down to, damn, they've done it before, and we know they can do it again. Or, we should have, with the way the offense was playing, maybe we should have had a bit more faith that they could have seen it out this time. But it's those past fixtures haunt you, man. Like against the Cardinals, I never feared because I know we have the Cardinals number and I'm all good with that. But against these guys, it's like it's never over. So you've got to keep going 100% all throughout the game. But like you said, a lesser team who can't go at 100% all game would have lost this.
Absolutely. Right. So we go 3 and out and hand Seattle the chance to have a chance to tie the game. And what a drive this was. So Geno play action pass to AJ Barner. Linebackers collided in space, which meant that he had a lot of room to work for and went downfield for a first down. Charbonnet then through the middle for 12. Great blocking by Barner to create that space. They look like they're gassing us at this point. 2nd down and 2. And another missed tackle by Detroit, but holding is called on DK Metcalf, which makes it 2nd and 9 instead of a first down. On 3rd down and 3, as a result, a throw to Lockett is incomplete. An amazing pass breakup by Amik Robertson. As clean as you like, he got the arm out in front, and that made it 4th down and 3. Geno makes it an empty set and runs right for the first down throw to Jackson Smith and Jigba. But OPI is called on Tyler Lockett, who was running a route but happened to block the guy in coverage.
He was in a blocking stance.
He was in a blocking stance.
He was in a blocking stance, and you're not allowed to go receiving when you're in a blocking stance. Like these whiny, I've got a lot of respect for the Seattle team. I've lost a lot for their fans today. The whiny little so-and-sos. You cannot show a blocking stance and then go receiver. With Brits, and we know that.
Yeah.
So that's on your receiver. Get angry with him, not the refs.
Yeah, just didn't sell it enough, unfortunately, because everyone knows these plays happen, but you've got to sell that you're running a route, and it just didn't happen. So that made it 4th and 13, and then a false start penalty made it 4th and 18 before they punted, and that felt like if the game was starting to shift, that it shifted back in our favour. Detroit take over on their 9th drive with 9 minutes to go, up 8. And they really end the game here. Great throw over the middle to Tim Patrick, threading the knee on a layered concept for 29 yards. Then on 2nd and 7, Gibbs up the middle gets 10 to get a set of first downs. I can't speak. A new set of downs. Play action screen under pressure then to Sam Laporta. Gets all the way down to the Seattle 10 for 30 yards. He knew he was going to get pressure. Amazing play call by Ben Johnson. out of that pressure because they needed to prevent us getting in field goal range. Instead, we're now in touching distance for a touchdown. First and goal at the 10. Goff with an overthrow, his only incompletion of the day. But OPI called on Brock Wright saves his perfect game. First down and goal from the 20. And a toss left to Jahmyr Gibbs for 8 makes a second and goal from the 12. He went up the middle then on the next play for 4 to make a third and goal from the 8. And Goff throws to wide open Amon-Ra St. Brown for a toe tap touchdown. Didn't need to be that good though, because Amon-Ra in the corner of the end zone had about 4 yards of separation. I really still need to watch this play back because I still don't entirely work out how he's as free as he is given how dangerous he is. But Goff could have made it an easy catch, instead makes it difficult for Amon-Ra, who makes an amazing snag and keeps it in bounds. The referees, I'm still pretty sure, have not signalled as to whether that's a touchdown or not, but it was given eventually. And the PAT...
There was one in the backfield who no one saw. Did you see Jeremy's thing with it earlier?
No, I didn't.
Everybody's too bothered looking at the judge like 3 yards away that there's actually a guy stood like 5 yards to the side of him in the end zone who's got the hands up. Literally no one's looking at him because everyone's looking at the first ref. But there was one there who gave the call.
Right, got it. Okay. PAT was good. Lions lead again by 15, and now we've only got 5 minutes to go. It feels like last chance saloon for Seattle. Gino sacked by a combination of Levi and Aleem. Levi actually forced a fumble, I think, here, but was recovered by Seattle. Second down and 12 as a result. Throw to Kenneth Walker for 13 yards gives him a first down. Then fires over the middle to Lockett for a first down. Goes for a big one to Jackson Smith and Jigba, but Arnold, great coverage by him to force an incompletion. Then a throw to Fant. Big hit by Kirby at the sticks, but Fant holds on for a gain of 10 and a first down. Amazing tackle by Meek Robertson on Jackson Smith and Jigba to limit him to only 4 yards. Houston then called offside again, allowed them to take a shot at the end zone. PBU by Brandon Joseph on DK Metcalf. He was being very physical, but no flag was thrown on that. I think it was a good no call, but we have seen it for that sort of play before. He was all over him. Second down and 1. A crosser to Jake Bobo for 9 yards. Gave him a first down. Gino then scrambled from R19 to the 7. A hold on Arnold was called, who was incredulous at the call, but it was a good call. Arnold was definitely holding. He pointed to the screen as if it was going to help, but it didn't. First and goal as a result from the 3.5 yard line. And Aleem gets a paw up there to bat a ball down when there was a clear guy in the end zone available, so saved a touchdown. Second down and goal should have been picked by Alex Anzalone. He read the play perfectly, but just couldn't snag it. Third down and goal, he moonballs it. DK prevents an interception against Carlton Davis, but isn't it offensive pass interference when you literally rip the potential receiver away from the ball? Carlton Davis had no chance in catching this ball because DK Metcalf turned into what I can only assume is what the referees thought Carlton Davis was earlier on in this game. How on earth that isn't called, I do not know, but it is egregiously bad. Causes fourth down and goal, and Seattle are running out of time to get the playoff here. 5 seconds to go, 2 seconds to go. They're looking around like, is anyone going to call a timeout? And then the centre snaps the ball with 1 second to go, and no one is ready. Now, to his credit, Geno Smith catches the snap so that, they don't completely lose the play. And he tosses up a ball which, might have worked. It was a little bit too far for Tyler Lockett, and so they turn it over on downs. But just a complete horror show of a play for everyone on that, apart from Detroit. Absolutely perfect. So the Lions take over at the 3 yard line. Second down and 10 then from your own 4. 3.5, whatever. We run play action because, of course, why would you put anything at risk? Goff gets tackled in the end zone, gets the ball out of the end zone, but because he doesn't get forward progress, he pulls the ball back just a little bit when he's going down, and the ball touches the line, which means on review it's called a safety. So that becomes 42-29 to Detroit, and we have to have a free kick. Now, the free kick, and you actually really know with the changing rules with the kickoff, is taken like a kickoff, but it's 15 yards further back at the 20 rather than being at the 35. So we kick it off normally, Jake Bates, and he gets it all the way from our 20 to their 4. Fantastic kick by Bates in terms of distance. Good return by D. Williams up to beyond midfield, but they have a holding call on them. It sets them back all the way at the 20. If they had been at their 50, it would have really helped. So fortunate the Lions there, but never mind. Nice throw to DK down the sideline for 21. Roughing on Levi on Gino gives 15 yards. Levi just landed with all his weight on Gino. It was actually an absolutely fine tackle if he didn't land with all his weight, but there we go. Then we talked about the Levi flop, but he was, of course, fine. Gino scramble with a fake toss for 11 yards, and then Gino somehow doesn't get sacked, but another flag on Arnold for a DPI on Jake Bobo. That was a really weak call. Bobo just flopped. Arnold barely touched him at all. It's not a non-contact sport, And then Gino threw it into double coverage to Jackson Smith and Jigba in the end zone, desperately trying to get a touchdown with time expiring. Amazing interception by Kirby in the end zone. Was it actually caught, I think, is a question that wasn't really reviewed because the game was basically over. I'm not convinced that Kirby, if the game was still in the balance, this wouldn't have been overturned, because I'm pretty sure I saw the ball move when it was touching the ground. But they didn't overturn it. The Lions can kneel it out. 42-29 it is. So, Ant, when it mattered most, after that run of touchdowns in the third and start of the fourth quarter, Seattle then have 2 drives stall out by the OPI call on Lockett, and then the goal line stands that we have to turn over on downs, and then the interception to finish off. So for all of the stuff about the defense and giving up those 3 touchdowns at the start of this half, they then came up really big late with the Lions getting 1 touchdown after that, but that was it. We'd actually, kind of went into our shell a little bit, and the defense finished it off, and Kirby gets another pick in the end zone. He can do no wrong.
It's the red zone defense, which is so much better last year. I say 2 stops in the red zone on that, the interception and the turnover on downs. Like, they're critical. Like, we've given up a lot of yards, but we're not giving up points, especially when we're ahead and they're having to throw. Like, they had a lot more yards, and a lot of them were just empty yards, but we just made... You don't always need to make a load of splash plays. You just need to make some big plays every now and then. And just most importantly, you need to capitalize on them. Like, where it changed for me, where my worry went away, it was Amik's first pass breakup. Like, when that happened and they had to go down to a 4th down, that was when I felt a lot better. You put them in 4th and 3. Obviously, he's going to try and run it over, you think, at this point. And then the OPI is... It is the most blatant one in the world. Like I say, you cannot get in stance as a blocker and then start running. Like, it's just it's there. Everyone's calling it out. Like, he's not touched anyone. Like, everyone says OPI, and they're like, oh my god, he's not touched him. He's not done anything like that. There are different variations of OPI. Read about them, but when you get that turnover, that's great for you. And then the most important thing, you go and get the touchdown. You put any doubt out of the window, and you just look. You talk about using your assets and not being predictable. Patrick, Gibbs, Laporta, Gibbs, Amon-Ra. Like, you're spreading it around all of your playmakers. You're getting all of them involved, and it's so difficult. That's what Seattle did to us. They were throwing to DK, they were throwing to Njigba, they were throwing to Bobo, they were running with Walker. You have a lot of offensive weapons. You keep dishing the ball around. You keep defenses guessing. I think that's why we were struggling. You were struggling to work out where it was going. But we did the same to them. And, when you're able to take that score and you're able to get 15 clear, it's so great. It's such a great toe-tapping catch there. Amon-Ra is just one of the best in the business. I don't know how he does what he does, but, you need your big players to come up and make a play and make that gap comfy, and you're able to do it again. It was just every time Seattle threatened to get back in this game, we just stamped them right before. It's like what Tampa did to us. Every time we threatened to get back in the game against Tampa, they went and scored right after we did, and then they just nullified all that hard work we'd put in, and then we had to go through it again. And eventually, when you're having to have clutch drive after clutch drive after clutch drive, you're going to make mistakes, which is what they did on these drives when we were able to turn them over. Like, they made mistakes because they had to basically be perfect. And we were putting them in some rough situations, which was good for us. I say, you had the sacks in there. You had some good tackles for loss, and then you have the red zone stand, which is just great. Like, so many times, I know they had one in this, but we just used to get down to the red zone, and it'd be a roll out, tight ends leaked out, into the end zone, done. Every time clear as clockwork. We couldn't defend in there for love nor money. And you say Aleem sets the tone with one, then Anzalone sets the tone with one, and then the D line really gets to it. You start panicking when you get to third and goal and fourth and goal. You're running out of chances on first and second. Don't really matter because you've got 4 goes, but you defend those tough downs to start with, makes them panic, makes them make mistakes, and then you get the botch snap because there's noise, they don't know what they're doing, they know it's probably their last chance of the game to save it. You forced a mistake out of them, which team and crowd did very well. So it was just really good all the way around. The only, the thing with the safety, I'm with you. Why you're not running it 3 times there? And just, if anything, you're going to take 2 minutes off the clock nearly just by running it, drowning the clock down, or you're going to force them to use timeouts or something like that. Hell, if you don't want to risk off, bring Hooker in. Just bring Hooker in and say, look, Hooker, 3 times we want you to run the ball and just get what you can and we'll punt it away. Because Jack's going to hit it to their 40, to their 50. You don't need to be stupid with it. Doing the play action stuff was just, it felt a bit too aggressive.
I'm smart. I'm smarter than you. I know that you're selling out for a run. Therefore, I'm gonna catch you cold.
Yeah, it felt like we poked the bear one too many times, and then the bear woke up and bit us. That just felt that. But at the end of the day, irrelevant. Doesn't really matter. They're in. They've been in hurry up for all the time. They get quickly down the field, but again, you make the stop where it matters. It's a great pick to finish it all off, and it just sets off what was a really good game. And I think the scoreline does not flatter anybody. Like, they deserve the points they got, but I think it was a lot more dominant performance than what the scoreline may indicate. I know we won by 13, which sounds silly, but this feels like we were a much better team than them on the day, and there was only one real time they threatened us a little bit, and we kind of quickly put the fire out. Like, I thought the offense played really well. I thought the defense, for the most part, played really well and was just subject to some terrific play from a good opposition. And that's what'll happen in the NFL. Teams will get, everyone's elite at this level. Like, someone's going to get you, no matter how good you are. And they put up one hell of a fight. So it was a terrific game all round. And I think this was the kind of dominant one we needed. We don't really get too many dominant ones. We have a lot of cardiac cat games. This felt like us making a statement that, you know what, yeah, we're here, we're for real, we do deserve to be ranked #1 in the power rankings, which we now are, which, God, I never thought I'd live to see the day.
It's never happened in my fandom, so it's quite a feat. I mean, so just game themes. I mean, obviously the offense comes alive. I know that there were 2 key 3-and-outs there, one at the top of the game, and then obviously when they're going on their run and we end up going 3-and-out. But it really felt like this was the first game of the season where the offense kind of minute 1 to minute 60 had the ability to put another 7 points on the board if they needed to, and it really came, with a play calling improvement from Ben Johnson and Jared Goff being quote unquote perfect on the day. I mean, his decision making was fantastic. He was agile in the pocket, and he was throwing the ball to the correct receivers at the correct time. So I was talking with Taib on our Discord about this, but the layer concept he threw to Tim Patrick was fantastic in terms of threading the needle. But the first one he threw to Tim Patrick in the first half, where he's leaking out underneath, Amon-Ra looks like he's actually going to be the actual target about 10 yards further downfield. But there's a defender in between the two, and if you throw that ball to Amon-Ra, there's a good chance that gets picked. Instead, he takes Tim Patrick in stride underneath, who managed to beat that one defender for the yak. It's just some of those little decisions sometimes where in previous games this year, it felt like he's kind of gone for a little bit too much. Not to say that he was too safe yesterday, because he did throw the ball down the field sometimes, but it just felt like an extremely efficient performance. A cold, calculated, we're dismantling you type of thing on the offensive side all day.
Yeah, absolutely. And this all comes down to, again, mixing up what you do. Like, every drive was something different. You look in the second half alone, the first, check down to Monty, but you get your 40 yards from it. You start with the check down there. Your next drive, immediate deep bomb to JMO. Like that's the first play. You get them off the heels. They're probably expecting you to run the ball because you've got a lead. Probably expect us to run it. We don't do that. Next drive, Gibbs up the middle, and then the next drive after that, deep shot immediately to Patrick. Every drive was different. It started differently. We kept them guessing, and we used all our playmakers. I say you look through this: JMO 80 receiving yards, Laporta 53, Patrick 52, Amon-Ra 45, Monty 40, although it technically was just the one. You've got 14 carries for Jameer, 12 for Monty. You're mixing it up. You're using everybody. And that just makes you such a dangerous offense when you spread it out. And sometimes we've just kind of been too guilty of, targeting one guy. Like when we lost to the Bucks, it was a lot of JMO, which is good, but also becomes slightly predictable. And we were just running the ball a lot willy-nilly. This, you're throwing it first down, running it first down. They don't know what to do. Do we stack the box? Do we lighten it? And there was no predictability about it. In previous games this year, you've felt predictability about it. This one you didn't. And they just threw out all the tricks. And then they love doing it against the Seahawks. We had a flea flicker against the Seahawks last year. We've had a wide receiver throw a touchdown pass to the quarterback this year. They are susceptible to the odd trick play. If you get them off their feet, they can be taken advantage of. And Ben just plays them like a fiddle. So yeah, it's just diversity of offense. That is it. That is all we need to do. We've got so many talented guys. Let's get them all going. Let's not just get one of them going. Let's get them all going. And then who can stop you? Only you can stop yourself, which was the case sometimes.
And about the other side of the ball, I mean, the running attack in the first half was 4 carries for 6 yards. In the second half, that was all Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker in the second half went for 15 carries. The run attack as a whole went for 15 carries for 127 yards at 8.5 yards a carry. I know they were gassed, and I know we were a long way ahead, but 8.5 yards a carry is it's not great.
It's not. You've got to take extenuating circumstances into account here. First off, well done to the Seahawks. Because what he's done, he's watched now for a month teams try and run the gut on us. Like he's just watched teams pound and pound away at our interior and get nothing, but still keep doing it. He didn't even try in this game. In the first half, he didn't really even run the ball because they were down 2 scores early. He kind of takes it out your hand a little bit. But what he did was realize that, okay, let's maybe not go for the cast iron wall in the middle of this line. Let's go round the outside a bit. We've lost Davenport, who's one of the best edge setters on there. We've got no Brian Branch, who's one of our best guys to come up and stuff against the run. You've got a little bit of a vulnerability on the edge. And you just so happen to have a running back who is great outside of the tackle. And they took advantage of that. Like they hammered home at that. They found our weakness and they went after it. So that's good play from the opposition. And you cannot discount the play of Kenneth Walker. Like sometimes you just come up against a running back who's just too good for you. Like when was the last time we got dominated by a running back like that? It does not happen very often. He made a lot of these plays. We got a lot of tackles in on him sometimes. Sometimes we were in the right positions and he just beat us. Like I'd be more worried if he was just going untouched throughout all these runs and we weren't being able to deal with it that way. But sometimes they just make good plays, and he made a hell of a lot of good plays in this. He single-handedly carried that team back into this second half. It was on the back of all his running that everything else opened up. So it is a slight concern, because now I think if you're a team against us, I think a lot of teams are going to try and abandon this running through the tackle stuff against us now, which, we've kind of relied on that. So we've just got to make sure this doesn't become a problem in the long run. But we'll have Brian Branch back going forward. We'll have a fully healthy line back going forward. We're going to have Broderick back. We can move some of our better edge setters to the outside from the interior. There's things we can do to countenance this. But at the end of the day, they were too far behind for it to matter. So it's a little concern, but I'm not too fussed in terms of this altogether, and I'm not fussed about the secondary either. This is a brand new secondary, which is going through learning curves, and you can see it every week. They're having some issues, but they're having a lot of success as well. And this is the way to go. Just let them keep almost making mistakes so that they learn from it and get better. Yeah, they've got 2 weeks now to go through all this tape, look at a lot of their early season teething issues, and you'll see them come back against Dallas, and they'll be a much better unit for it. But I don't want them to deviate from this course with the secondary. I want them to stay this course. Keep Terrion in there, keep Colton in there, tell them to carry on being aggressive, tell them to carry on getting in these guys' faces. Just fine tune your technique a little bit, but like in Terrion's case, that'll come with NFL experience. So there's not a lot I want to criticize them over, really, to be fair. Like I say, they played Ben not break very well. I don't mind giving up empty yardage if you're going to stop them in the red zone, and we did, like, for a good chunk of this, especially when we needed to. We made the stops. So yeah, I think it was pretty good overall.
Yeah, I think so too. So Carl Rymink asked the question, how do we feel about 29 points allowed? Is it because we have defensive issues or just Seattle has talent, so it is what it is? And I think, to answer the question, I don't think it's about defensive issues necessarily. So I think that the linebacker tackling was not ideal in this game. I think that the safety tackling was not ideal in this game. Neither Joseph is really a box safety at his core. They are both kind of coverage deep safeties, and that's fine. I mean, at least on the back end, we're going to be a bit more stout. But like you said, young guys developing, or in Carlton's case, he's been coached to be more aggressive than he has been in the past at Tampa, and he's learning what he's going to get away with and what he isn't in terms of trying to play the way that he's being asked to here. And they're going to get theirs. We talked about it in the preview, but it's the most talented trio of wide receivers we may face this season. The depth is awful, but we just don't use the depth end. I mean, Jake Bobo played great as well on yesterday, so, maybe there's a fourth guy there. But Ken Walker showed what he can do in that final year at Michigan State, and he's had his trouble with injuries since he got to Seattle, but when he's on the field, he's one of the best in the league. So they're going to get theirs. I think for Seattle, it was just a shame that they didn't decide that he was going to be a big factor in this game in the first half, because who knows how it could have been different. But I think you've said your piece on this. I've said mine, so...
I think the only way you measure this, like, are there any plays in this game where you go, oh my God, I absolutely hate what the defense did? And I don't look back and go, oh my God, I absolutely abhor that. Like, there was a little mistake, like the first one, CD gets his ankles broke, he slips a little bit and DK goes, but there's not many plays where I'm going, oh my God, what the hell are they doing? Why is this going on? Which I think is a good thing. And again, like you say, the young guys, Campbell gets turnover, Kirby gets another turnover, clutch stop's been made, and we're missing some big players as well. So it's not a concern for me, I don't think. I think given the game sitch, when teams are playing from behind, they can score quickly, they throw a lot of garbage points at you. Some of them felt garbagey in this, so yeah, I'm not worried at all. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, cool. Okay, right. Time to give a shout out to some specific players. So who comes to mind for you initially?
Who comes out for me? I think you've got to give props to Awashika for one, because coming in. And I guess this extends to Graham and probably the whole offensive line, really. But, Frank's a big loss for this line. You've got to move Graham in, and then you've got another guy coming in. It's very easy for one cog on that line to become a hindrance to it. Like you say, Awashika sprung. He sprung up for one of the touchdowns. It was him. He was the reason it happened. Like, he didn't look like he'd missed a beat. Not really played that. I don't know if he's played that much this year. Has he played any snaps this year before this week? Has he played any in relief? Yeah.
No.
Has he played? So you've got a guy who's coming in cold after a month, and yes, people can moan about the lack of D-line and stuff like that, but still, for him to come in, he had a clean game. I don't remember him really making any errors. So, like Goff was protected well for the most part. When he was getting sacked, it was because he was holding on to it too long. But I'm very happy with what Awashika did. That's the depth you need. A guy who you can bring into a game like this and be like, yeah, he's going to come in, he's going to give me a good game or two. He played really well. I think he deserves a lot of credit because that O line, I didn't know Frank was missing in the nicest way possible.
Yeah, it was a very nice feeling, I have to say. I mean, it wasn't that Goff wasn't under pressure. He just dealt with what pressure there was very, very well. I think that a lot of the pressure that came for Goff came through that left guard and centre spot. So Awashika and Glasgow didn't have perfect days by any means, but I think that they did enough to the point where Goff was well protected for the majority of his passing reps, and where it wasn't perfect, Goff dealt with it. And I mean, for all of this narrative about Goff isn't good when being blitzed or under pressure, I think he's firmly put it to bed, especially with this performance. I mean, the pirouette to get away from pressure before having to throw, where his eyes are no longer downfield because he's had to spin, and he managed to throw within half a second of getting his eyes back downfield. It's an incredible play. And yeah, I got to give props to Jared Goff. Best game of the season by far. No incompletions, good decision making. Absolutely love your work, sir. Second one for you?
See, it's very tough because I feel like this is. I mean, I guess you've got to give Tim Patrick
He was my
his
second
credit.
guy, yeah.
I guess you've got to give Tim Patrick credit. Like he's coming in cold. He's not played football in 2 years, and he
We
came
were
in
sceptical.
into. Oh God, yeah. I mean, it takes time for you to get going, but he came in, made two very important clutch plays, and gave us that fifth, sixth option to use when you're using Amon-Ra, when you're using Sam, when you're using JMO, but then when you're using him as well, it's like you can't devote any extra attention to any of the other targets. You've got to go one-on-one with these guys, which gives them all opportunities. So, like, I think Tim's certainly up there for a shout, and I mean, the other one I give, I'm just very, quickly, I just do want to give one to Monty because David Montgomery, I don't know why, he's not like a pillar. Like, he's not Amon-Ra or Hutch. He's not like the foundational building piece that this team's going to be long term. But Monty feels like he's the tone setter. It all goes through Monty. He's the guy. There's just something. He's got aura, as they say, and like that 40-yarder that he busted out, like he feels like this was what we've been missing for a long time. Even when we had like Swift was doing well and that, like Monty doing what he does allows Jahmyr Gibbs to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Like it allows him to go off and do his fancy bits to be able to utilize him this way. It feels like everything runs through Monty. If you ask me if there was one skill player I would want to lose on this team, I wouldn't want to lose on this team. Even Amon-Ra, I would not want to lose Monty over any of them. I just feel like everything runs through him, and this game felt like an epitome of that. He didn't necessarily have the most plays in the world, but the ones he made set the tone for us.
I guess the way I would put it is that David Montgomery is the epitome of what Dan Campbell wants in a football player, whereas Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is the epitome of what Ben Johnson wants in a football player, and between the two, they make it work really, really well.
Yeah, it's smash mouth and glitz and grime, and they work. It's like a shitty. It's like an old diesel car with like a Maserati or something like that, but they work. There's just a simplicity to it, but
Yeah.
like you've got to laugh, haven't you? It's like Pears said he was old and didn't want him, and then they went and got Swift. It's like, man, you letting him come here is one of the biggest mistakes like an NFC North team has made to a divisional rival in a long time. Monty should never have been allowed to come here because dude's just gonna eat and eat and eat and eat, and he's just I can't. It's hard to put into words what he's added to us, but he is this team and I love him to death because I know he's just given everything. He didn't have to. He come from a rival as well. Easy for them to down tools when they come somewhere else, and he's not. If anything, he's even better than he was when he was at Chicago.
I'm going to give one on defense to, I mean, this is such an easy one, isn't it? But Aiden Hutchinson again. I mean, he played a lot of snaps in this game. There is absolutely no doubt. He had 78 of the 90 plays. Of course, one of them was enforced not being there because he tried to do the trick where he led down on the ground trying to get an interception to hide on the sideline, and they thought he was injured and told him to get off for one play. But barring that, through the 78 snaps, he had 15 pressures, including a quarterback hit. He didn't get home in this game, but he was putting Geno under constant pressure. Without looking at the PFF grades, you didn't need that to know that Geno had to account for him every single time. And what it's done is that Aiden has now had more than 90 grades on 3 of the 4 games. I think 15 is probably the most he's had in his career in terms of pressures. It means he now has 40 on the season, which is 18 more than anyone else. It means that he is the number 1 ranked edge in football, comfortably. But he's also the 2nd ranked defensive player in football, and number 1 is Fred Warner. And Aiden has had 58 more snaps than he's had. So you're looking at a player that has taken having amazing games but not managing to necessarily string them together into someone who every single game is the most important player we have on the team potentially. And when you're having to run away from one side of the field every single time, it makes a massive difference to what you can do on defense, especially when you're rushing from that left side against right-handed quarterbacks and they've got to aim left every single time.
I don't know about you, but I think we are witnessing what will be the best statistical season he ever has in the NFL. I think this is a season that he's never going to replicate. This is going to be the one where he just goes absolutely mental and sets the standard so high that, not by him being receding or anything, he's just not going to reach again. That kind of feels like where we're at with him here. Obviously, he's going to have 10 potentially more great seasons, but 9 will not be as good as this one.
Just want to put into context what he's doing right now. So in terms of the 100 pressures club in 2023, I think there were 3 or 4 players who got more than 100 pressures. And I think it was... Oh no, maybe it wasn't. Yes, it is Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Aiden Hutchinson, the only players who got more than 100 pressures. Aiden has 40 in 4 games.
There's no...
Outrageous.
There's no... Unless you'd have to go back through PFF, but I can't find any statistical records about what the record is, but record's going to be under threat.
Oh, yeah.
If he carries on doing... But that's what I mean. I think this season is pointing towards, and it feels fate this year. This feels like a fate year where it's going to be, we're not going to get this every season. I think he's just going to do stupidly good this year, and he's never going to be able to replicate the stupidly good year that he has. Like, he will always be elite, but this will be the pinnacle of his eliteness this year. Because he just feels like he's on one, and he's healthy, he's playing a ridiculous amount, and, inevitably the wear and tear, like JJ, when he had his, was his 2018, 2019 year, was it? The absolutely
he went absolutely
phenomenal
nuts.
one. And he's been elite, like, when he's been healthy every year since then, but never that elite. Like, because it's just physically impossible to be that good all the time.
Okay, there's a PFF article from 2023 talking about the record for pressures. The record for pressures at the time of that article was set in 2021 by Max Crosby when he became the only edge player to reach 100 pressures. And so the fact that 3 of them went over that last year was the record. So Hutch is on to smash it.
It's a relatively newer metric, I think. Well, not newer, but it doesn't go back as long as some
It's
of
it's
the
it's
other
the
ones
it's a
do.
PFF era metric, so that's
Yeah.
2013, 14-ish. But
Yes, and it's subject to their whim as to whether it counts as one or not.
mm,
So we'll never know the true value, but it'll be a PFF record.
yeah, absolutely incredible. Anyway, apologies for derailing about him, but I just thought it was worth going into how historic his season has been so far. Any other shout outs for you? Because you haven't had any on defense yet.
I mean, it's on defense. Who would we? I mean, I would give another one to Jack. I think Jack is maturing more every. I'm pretty sure I gave him one against the get last week as well.
Yeah.
But I do believe like we're seeing the guy now. I know he gave up a couple of receptions, but linebackers develop slowly and it'll take time. But you're starting to see him. He's getting confident now. He's getting confident in his ability. You see him like pre-snap. He's always moving around. His eyes are searching. Like he's always scouting. He's very aware, and he's making a lot of plays now. A lot of tackles. He's filling in the gaps. Just little things you didn't see in year one. You see now, and of course that turnover at the beginning is critical because it allowed us to get a two-score lead. That turnover doesn't happen, and we sort of just start having a gunfight, touchdown here, touchdown there, touchdown here. That game could be a lot different, but the fact that we established a cushion, which created pressure, which allowed us to extend that, like his maybe the biggest play of the game because we went and scored off that. So
Mhm.
I'd certainly give a lot of credit to Jack. He's already on leaps and bounds from where he was previously. I'd go the same for Malcolm as well. Like I think a joint gave it him last year. Again, he goes so long sometimes without playing snaps, and then he just comes into the team and looks like he's a seasoned veteran.
Mm.
It's like he's just that guy. Every time you need something, he will go and do it for you. And again, he makes a big play at the start of this game. It's his tackle on DK, which kills their first drive dead and stops them from getting in front. Like the linebackers killed those first two drives of theirs. So they're pivotal in us winning this game. And again, they're young. Third year, second year, they're only going to get better as the years go by. And hopefully, if Barnes is, they're going to follow the same trajectory as him and turn into specialists at their positions. And we're going to be set forever and a day. Um, who else would I shout out? Levi, I'll shout out Levi again as well. The
Yeah.
fact that he's still playing, he got the sack. Like him, Aleem, and Reader in the middle now, it's created this dynamic where they're always fresh. I mean, God, I keep getting one to it. Reader got his first sack as well, didn't he? So,
Yeah.
like, but this triumvirate in the middle now, especially when Broderick comes back and is able, like, we can push maybe Levi out a little bit and help out on the edge, but they're fresh. They look fresh. Like, Aleem's batting down passes in the fourth quarter of a game because he's fresh. He's not gassed from playing 70 snaps like we were asking of him when he first came here because we had nobody else. Like he's fresh. He gets a little rest on the sidelines. He can come in and make plays like that, and it's because Levi's in there that we can keep everybody so fresh. So there's a lot to like. It's just a lot of these young guys coming through and finally developing into what we thought they were going to be. That's one of the big reasons the defense is as good as it is. Like some of these guys have taken a bit of time, but they're getting there now, and they're filling in, they're providing crucial depth for us, which allows us to rest the starters. And that's why I think you're seeing a better defense because it's not just the starters playing all game because they have to.
Yeah, I got one more to give, and then an honourable mention.
I've got
So
an honourable one. You go first.
right, so the one I wanted to give that wasn't an honourable one, just a straight up one, is to Kirby Joseph. Goes without saying, doesn't it? But with no branch back there, with Iffy now out on IR, his position has become so important. And he, after a down year last year, after so much promise in his rookie year, he was the person I was looking at most this season with like the most to lose. Because if you have a bad third year for him and it's a second consecutive year of kind of getting slightly worse, then it might be going into your contract year with everything to prove and all the pressure of the world on his shoulders, and he's come out to start the season on an absolute tear. I mean, it's night and day what he's doing, and he's making clutch, high leverage plays. I mean, just to put it into context, of all of the safeties who've played more than 60 snaps, he's the 5th highest ranked one in the NFL. He has absolutely answered his critics so far this season. He deserves all the plaudits. His coverage is much better. He's not giving up DPIs. He's not getting too handsy. His reading of quarterbacks was never in question, but he's actually trusting himself just a little bit more, and I'm absolutely here for it. So there's my last one.
And he's not got a complete dickhead next to him either.
That does help.
Yeah. Yeah. But sophomore slumps are real things. Like a lot of guys, sophomore slump the second year. It just happens. It's part of their development. No one knew about Kirby in his year 1.
Yeah.
They all knew about him in year 2. You've got to adapt and adjust to that, and he's readapted back.
Yeah, he really has. Okay, you have an honourable mention then.
I do. Well, as you know, we've scored a lot of touchdowns in this game, and we had a lot of point afters converted, which meant that the long snapper did his job really well. So Hogan Hatton, I mean, got to give him his credit again. Just no mistakes whatsoever on the snapping situations. Nothing, nada, squat. He's great, right?
Poke the bear, poke the bear, poke the bear. He did get a special teams tackle. He got a special teams tackle as well. And I think Eric had a good piece on this on Pride of Detroit. But basically, Don Muhlbach had a tackle every 10 games, and Scott Daly had 4 in his Lions career. And Hogan Hatton has 1 after 4 games. It's a good sign for a player who is one of the more athletic long snappers that we have, that he's actually making key tackles on special teams. If he can do that, that's going to be worth saying to us down the stretch. The guy I'm going to shout out is someone who I didn't know was on the field at all. I'm not going to lie. I'm only shouting him out because he's appearing on PFF. I need to go back and have a look for the player that we claimed on waivers after the 53-man squads were decided. Trevor Nowaski has found himself second in PFF grade on defense because on 8 snaps and 7 pass rushing snaps, he got 3 pressures. I don't know where they came from, and I want to go back and have another look. But given how he got claimed back, and the fact that it's like, well, he might be the last linebacker on the depth chart, but we've picked him for a reason. And when a person I'm going to mention in a minute is perhaps not living up to expectation, that he would come in and give that sort of performance is fantastic. So, well done, Trevor. I'm going to go back and have a look and see if I can find what work you were doing. But that's quite impressive.
Okay. Well, I'll do one coach one then quickly, and I'll say Ben Johnson, superb.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb, start to finish. Just one minor, teeny tiny minor critique with you. Stop pitching the ball to Jameer Gibbs.
Yeah. Yeah, please stop doing that.
Pitching to running backs is great, but what you need to really be able to sell that is a running quarterback. You have got to present the threat that you're not going to pitch the ball to your running back, because it's quite obvious when they're running to the same side together that they're just waiting for the edge defender to bite and then he's going to toss it out. You can only really get away with that when you've got like a Lamar Jackson, because you don't know, is he actually going to toss it or is he going to wait for the guy to presume he's going outside, take a step outside, and then he's going to zoom through the middle and exploit that gap. Jared, as much as I love him, he is now Randy Moss incarnated, but he will never be Michael Vick reincarnated.
No.
Like, you can't get away with running back tosses when you don't have a rushing quarterback. So just pack that one in, Ben. But apart from that, 99.9%, you were awesome today, and you really, for the entire game, were tremendous.
I have one player that I want to shout out for a poor performance. Do you have any that you want to shout out for a poor performance?
For a poor performance,
there's just one that is so glaring that I can't not mention it.
Oh, don't you start bullying him as well. I have enough dealing with this all the time. I mean, I don't feel like anyone I feel like there's no one on offense like at all. Like you could do that. It's gonna have to be defense. I mean, shit, but it, this may seem. I don't know if this is harsh. Carlton is a vet, and I feel like Carlton got rinsed by DK in this one a little too much for my liking. He should be a little better. 3 flags as well. I know Terrion got a load as well, but I'm just let's just say I have not mild concern. My
You're
my
watching him
radar,
more closely now.
my radar is tinging a little bit. Just because everyone is bullying Terrion about the DPIs, but he's been just as bad and nobody's mentioning it right now. Like
Yeah, it is weird how the narrative on
this,
Davis is that he's fine, but Arnold isn't, and they're
Terrion's
basically
not.
doing the same thing.
Exactly. And for me, I think Arnold's making more plays right now.
I mean, Carlton did have 3 PBUs in this game.
He did. But he
And
also had...
we had the harder assignment out of him and Arnold.
He did. But he got his ankles broken by DK on that first touchdown. And there were just a few. That's why it's nothing major. It is something I'm monitoring.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's just a phase where he's settling into this side and the way it plays. But I call that a very, very minor thing.
Yeah. Fair. The one player, I think you know who I'm going for already. And it's nothing really major. It's more frustration than anything else. He's been inactive most of this season, and people are questioning why he's even on the team. Now he gets the chance to play in the game. Not only does he get the chance, but most of the time people in his position might be getting 3 or 4 snaps. He gets 14 defensive snaps. Doesn't have much of a pass rushing impact. But more than that, gives away 2 offside penalties, for which one was then a free shot to the end zone, which could have, really changed the game in Seattle's favour. James Houston, when you are given the chance, finally, to play, you need to have more of an impact than that, because basically every time you're on the field, it was negative for the Lions. And on a purely cold basis, because I'm a big fan of his, and I think he can get back to where he was in his rookie season, this wasn't it. And I just feel bad about it.
I mean, he's ice cold. The dude's not played a lot of football. I get where people are coming from. I do. But I would also respectfully say that he's played precious little football since his injury. And, he had to deal with a niggle after the last game as well. Those offsides, he's desperate to make a play. Sometimes guys who are desperate to make a play try and find every advantage they can. And yes, he's making mistakes with it, but he's played 14 snaps. He's cold right now. I think all he needs a sack. He needs just that play that's going to spark him up a little bit. And then, then he'll be able to go on a little run and we'll see the better guy again. I feel like we need to be a little patient. Like people were starting to write Malcolm off at one point because he wasn't playing last year and because Jack was here and stuff like that. Look at Malcolm now. Like he had some bad PFF graded games last year and he made some mistakes and etc. like that. But they stuck with him and it's paying off. And with some of these guys, you've just got to stick with them a little bit. It just feels, in the grander scheme of things, I feel like some players are getting targeted too easy right now. I get this frustration with him, I really do. It's like Terrion. And I'm really pissed off at some of the people who got, because it just feels like you've got a really good team right now. They're playing really well. Stop finding guys to unnecessarily pick on.
Well, I mean, if you have a look at what he's done compared to what Okudah has done throughout Okudah's Lions career, Arnold is better now than Okudah ever was. And Okudah was 3rd overall, and Arnold was 21.
Oh, God, yeah. And
he's been held to a higher standard than Okudah because he happens to be on the team right now.
Yeah, but I think he's on... The thing is, and Okudah didn't have this, Okudah was on a shite team. Like, Arnold's on a contender. Arnold is expected to come in and be a lockdown corner on a contending team going to the Super Bowl as a rookie. Jeff Okudah never had that expectation. I mean, yeah, I get it. When we drafted him, we were expected to go to the playoffs, but we just let Slay go, which was the worst thing we could have done. And he was essentially cornerback one right from the get-go. Arnold technically isn't that here. He's a 1B with Carlton, but the thing that annoyed me is how quick people turned. Like, I go back to Mike again, get 3 games in, and he's writing tweet after tweet after tweet, slagging him off. And it's like, what the hell? That if that's after 10, 12 games, fine. But it feels like you're trying to prove a point now to say to everyone else, I told you so. Because the first time Arnold made a mistake yesterday, he was on X gloating about it. Oh no, he's made another error. Look at me, I was right. Oh, shut the fuck up. Really?
Yeah.
You are beyond that. You used to be a respectable journalist. Now you're looking for hot takes, and you're more bothered about him doing badly to prove your point. And there seem to be a lot of people jumping on this and been the same. Like the second he commits DPI, everyone goes, DPI merchant, bust, he's terrible. He's played 4 games against some of the best receivers in the NFL, and you just want to start using the B word. You want to start slagging him off. Get the hell out of here. I got no time for you whatsoever. Like, he's very clearly getting better week by week.
Well,
We are
I
in
mean,
a
I
little
think
bit
we,
of a position.
I think we can go even further than what you're saying. When you have a look at the expectation of a first-round cornerback, he is exceeding expectations. So the narrative isn't just wrong and he's merely doing okay. He's doing well. Like, borderline looks good. And
Exactly. If he's guarding, like,
if he got
if-
burned like Davis did against DK, you might go, ooh, we might have a problem here, because you never want to see someone get burned like that. Arnold has never been burned like that.
no. Well, would I take 20 DPI penalties from him in a year if by the time he gets to the Super Bowl and he's guarding, let's say, we're against, we're against the Chiefs and we're against their plethora of guys. If he's locking guys down in the Super Bowl because we've allowed him to be
Feel it
free and fast, feel it out, work his way into it, develop quicker by learning from his mistakes. I would take 50 DPIs if it meant he got to the Super Bowl and he was playing his best football because we'd allowed him to, instead of mollycoddling him and keeping him on the side and him making mistakes in the Super Bowl because we've not allowed him to develop and grow, and it ultimately cost us that way. It's like, you've got a good football team. We are in a really good situation. Stop going after players unnecessarily. You cannot go after a rookie after 3 games.
Yeah.
Now 4. I'm sorry, you just can't.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, point's dead, so.
All right, let's move on from the Lions game to talk about briefly the games from around the league this weekend. We already talked about the Cowboys-Giants game in the preview show, so skipping over that straight into the early Sunday slate. And the Falcons got the win over the Saints 26-24 with a walk-off field goal from 58 yards by Younghoe Koo. Great game. Yes, I know, you are decidedly smug.
Yeah, I am. Saints are frauds, but
Yeah.
it was a good game. It was a good game. The AFC South may be a little bit better than we gave it credit for at the start of the year. As much as I do like to dunk on the Saints, I think we're in sort of a middle ground where
they are who they've been the last few years.
They're not as good as maybe you might have said they are, but they are definitely not as bad as I might have said they've been. They're in that fine little gap in the middle.
They're in the fun zone where they may be like the 6th or 7th seed in the playoffs because they get in with a 9-8, 10-7 record.
Interesting though. Did you see what TJ tweeted out?
No.
Our TJ. He says he's done with Carr and Allen. He says he's fed up of them and he's done. And obviously TJ knows the Saints very well. He's in and around the building. He's a very passionate Saints fan.
He is.
And he tweeted after the game on Saturday or whenever it was, he says, I'm done with Allen and Carr.
Wow.
So,
I mean, considering where I think expectations were more along your line of thinking than my line of thinking with the Saints this season. So the fact that they're better than that it's weird.
I think Saints fans demand Super Bowl. They don't demand playoffs. They demand Super Bowls. That is an expectant fan base who has been starved ever since Drew Brees left. I mean, they've not even been close to being a good team since then, but they don't just want to win a playoff game. They want to win the whole thing. And guys like TJ will look at it and go, well, okay, maybe Carr is playing well right now, but like he might get us to the playoffs, as you said, a 6 or 7 wild card or something like that. Might win us a game, but ultimately we're going to get twonked out by some 2 seed, 3 seed, 1 seed type. And that's not good enough for them. But unfortunately, if you're a 6th or a 7th seed, where are you picking in the draft? In the early 20s. And generally too far away from your quarterback of the future. I think he feels like they're in purgatory with him. They're never going to... They've got a ceiling, right? They're never going to be a top 4 seed unless the division sucks. That's not a good place to be. Winning in spite of the other 3 teams in your division is not a good thing.
All right. Rams Bears finished 24-18 in favor of the Bears, and for a moment there it looked like the Rams were going to get into it, and they had a chance late to drive for the win, but Stafford threw a pick to end the game. It was a sucky way to end that one.
Stafford throwing a game-losing pick in Chicago. Some things never change, eh? I mean, we saw enough of those. A fully fit Rams team would have absolutely decimated that Bears side. That's all I'm going to say. They are not as good as they're running a cupcake schedule and beating up teams. At least when we played the Rams, they had a lot of those injured players in the ranks. Bear in mind, we probably injured a lot of them, or they got injured in a lot of the games against us. But like, you do have to give credit to LA. They are being competitive despite losing their top 2 receivers, their offensive line, like all sorts they've lost on that team. It's credit to them that they're playing so well. But it was not a win that showed how good the Bears are. It showed how beaten up the Rams were.
Vikings over the Packers in Green Bay, 31-29. Packers went out 28-0 in the first half, but then really came back in the second. It was an absolute barnstormer of a game.
You see the grin on your face. You talk about me being smug over something. You've been waiting for this Green Bay implosion. You've been predicting it for weeks. I could see the smile as you were saying that just then. Like, they got absolutely manhandled.
I will just say, I did take Green Bay +2. So the fact is, the Vikings didn't end up covering the 2-point spread.
Well,
which I mean, I took Green Bay. So when they were coming back, I was like, I don't like supporting you, but this is good for me.
I mean, it's crazy, right? Malik Willis is 2-0. Jordan Love is 0-2. That's the best stat of it. They are 2-2, and Malik Willis has both the wins.
Yeah.
Start Malik, bench Jordan. You may have just made him the highest paid quarterback or second highest now, sorry, with Dak. But
yeah,
it's all about Malik, babe. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really watch the start of it, so I don't know what happened. Was it something specific that happened? Was it turnovers or? I don't know.
No, the Vikings were excellent on defense and offense. Packers just couldn't get anything going. Love was struggling to pass the ball. He was like hopping around and he couldn't step into his throws. Like, I don't think he should have played, to be honest, Jordan Love.
So what's our scale of worry about the Vikings now? Because I think when we did it last week, we were about 7s. Like, as the scale of worry for the Vikings gone up, I think they do demand our attention and respect at this point. But I still can't help but feel there's a soft underbelly to be tickled in them, and that this 4-0 start is not 100% representative of what they really are.
They've beaten the 49ers, the Texans, and they've gone to Green Bay and won. Their schedule has been no cakewalk, and they've got it done. I think when I'm thinking about the Vikings, with every win, obviously they are more serious just because they're putting the wins on the board. I am still not as concerned as some people are with.
Do we play them after the Cow? Is it Cowboys then Vikings?
It's Cowboys then.
I'm pretty sure it's. Is it? I thought it's Vikings after Cowboys.
It is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
It's
so that's going to be a massive thing.
It's at theirs as well, isn't it? Because we don't get a
Yes.
home game in the NFC North for Week 13, which is a joke. So
Yeah, no, that is
we've
what
got
it
to
is.
go. We've got to go to AT&T, and then we've got to go there. Like,
Yeah,
that's not easy.
It's not easy, but I'm quietly okay with it. I think we'll be fine. I just got a feeling that they're not going to like what we can do.
If you had to win one of them, which one would it be?
Cowboys or Vikings?
If you could only win at one of the Cowboys or the Vikings, who would you win at?
Oh, Vikings. Cowboys are not a good team. If you lose against them, it feels like shit. But if you guarantee me a Vikings win in Minnesota, that feels like we've got a stranglehold on the division now. We'll have the tiebreaker with the home game to come against a team that's got the same record as us. So
when is the Vikings bye? Are they playing straight through to
Vikings bye?
Oh, they're Jets this week. Oh, damn! No, they're coming off a bye when they play us.
Vikings are in London.
Yeah,
they are the London game,
and then they've got a bye.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it'll be an interesting one. Anyway, let's move on. Steelers fall to the Indianapolis Colts in a surprise result, especially when Anthony Richardson goes off injured. 27-24 in easily Indy's best game of the season. I think they legitimately looked borderline good against a team that maybe had, I would say, the best defense so far this season.
Yeah, they were like what are the Colts? Like, they're such a hard team to define. Are they good? Are they? I don't know what are the Indianapolis Colts, Matt. I don't know what they are I don't know how to describe them. They're not bad. They're not good. I don't know. It's just so weird. The Steelers are the Steelers. They're never going to be a dominant, unbeaten. Like, they're gonna lose some games that you'd expect them to win.
Yeah,
they're just that sort of team now, and they've got to get it. But I don't know what this says about the Colts. For me, it doesn't clear the air about them anymore.
This muddies the water for me. I think I decided before this game that the Colts were not going to be the team I thought they might be. And then this game has firmly put them back into I'm not sure anymore.
I don't know what they are.
I mean, they just look good with Flacco on the field. I mean, so Richardson put together one of the best passes I've seen so far this season with an early pass which went for like 30 yards where it was just out of reach of the defender into double coverage where it was a complete sandwich and he just put it in the only position where his guy could go and get it. And I'm like, the guy has it. Like, Richardson definitely has what you want in a quarterback, but he's just so risky as a quarterback. Like, he can't win his way. It's like he's Cam Newton with a better arm but a more fragile body.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can't take that. That's what makes him the quarterback that he is. You
Yeah.
can't just tell him to, like, you get that Anthony Richardson or you get no Anthony Richardson. He's never just going to be a stand and deliver pocket passer.
No, he's not.
You can't take that natural instinct, and you've got to take the lumps with it. So I think if you've got a team with him on it, you've always got the chance to win games, but you've always got to have a good backup in the wings just in case. The funniest thing in this one was Joe Flacco. Like, the guy's ageless, but that interview he did after was just the best thing in the world, where this woman comes up and interviews him, and she goes, "Oh yeah, Anthony Richardson's told us he thinks you're cool," and he just looks at her with a stared face and go, "I know for a fact he's told me that his mum is 10 days older than me. There is no way in hell that he thinks I'm cool." It's just like,
yeah,
I mean, it's like, it's crazy. And I'm thinking about, I'm like, can he be? And I'm like, what's Flacco, 39?
Yes.
So if Richardson's about 21, 22, 17-year difference, there's every opportunity that this mum is like maybe 18 years older or something like that, and it's like, oh my God, that's how old he is. But I'm like, he's true. There's no way Anthony Richardson says he's a cool dude because he's old
No.
enough to be his dad, literally.
I
But I
think
just found it really funny.
I think at the end of it all, we'll find out that the Colts are a good team. Are they good enough to get to the playoffs?
I think Flacco will be great for Anthony Richardson.
I think so too.
Like,
I think
yeah. That feels like the perfect mentorship there. And if Flacco's got to play a bit more this year, that feels honestly like Anthony Richardson's going to get a lot out of that. They seem to have a dynamic where they work well together, and I think they're different enough where they can learn off one another, and there's a lot that Flacco can teach Richardson, and vice versa as well. But that feels like the perfect mentorship program, and I think they'll be much better off as a result of that.
They got a good defense in Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. They've got two good receivers in Jonathan Taylor. They've got a heck of a running back, along with Trey Sermon back there as well, who's a good reliever. Like, the offense is good enough that with capable quarterback play, they should do enough in their division to come second, because Houston are going to win it. Is that going to be enough to get in the playoffs in the AFC, is the big question.
See, yeah, they've lost their Colts identity. Like, their Colts identity was based on that offensive line. Like, running the ball well, good pass, like, dominating the line of scrimmage. That is what the Colts are. They're like us. They play that style, and it feels like Pittsburgh, where they've not invested. I don't know what the O-line situation is like in Indy. I could be completely wrong here. I just feel they need to invest more in that, maybe, because it doesn't feel like, because that's the backbone of that team, and it doesn't feel like it's a backbone for them. Like, Taylor sometimes struggles to get yards because he's not getting the rushing lanes, and the quarterback's struggling. Richardson's getting hit a lot. So I don't know. Just my very, very outside take is they need to beef up that front line because they've got the playmakers and they've got the quarterback.
They've invested in it heavily. The right side of the line could be good in the future if they develop the guys they've drafted.
Maybe it's just young.
So left tackle's Bernard Ryman, who I think's done really well.
That's second year, third year? He's third year.
Yeah, something like that. Quentin Nelson's left guard, obviously one of the best.
Best.
Ryan Kelly at centre, I think, is fine.
Yeah.
Then you've got Will Fries at right guard and Braden Smith at right tackle, who I don't think much of personally. The backups that they have, interior, is Tanner Bortolini.
Oh, he'll be great. He'll be a great call.
And the backup right tackle is Matt Goncalves. So both rookies this season.
Your Pittsburgh tackle.
Yeah, so I think between those two, if Bortolini and Goncalves can good, I think that O-line will be good again. It depends whether they can keep Kelly, Nelson, and Ryman.
Yeah.
But I think they're on the track to being okay.
Yeah. That's probably why we're seeing flashes of good then. If they're investing young in that line and it's starting to get better.
All right. Do you want to have a bit of fun?
Oh, I'm always up for a bit of fun.
Denver Broncos beat the New York Jets 10 points to 9.
I don't know if I can say any nice things about this game.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
What was it? Knicks had -7 passing yards in the first half, was it? Something like that?
Yeah.
What did he have? He finished with 60? Was it 60?
60 on 12 of 25, including a passing touchdown. Cortland Sutton had
have 57 of them. Oh, 63, yeah.
Cortland Sutton had 60 receiving yards of the 60 passing yards that were had. Unfortunately for the rest of them, they had... I mean, there's only 12 catches between them, but some of them had positive yardage and some of them had negative yardage.
I tell you what, I say this every week. It's just... Drew Brees made Sean Payton. He is not a good head coach anymore. And he's not been since he lost his star quarterback. This Denver team, like, the defense looks really good. But that offense, man, for the weapons they have, they should be better.
Yeah.
They should be much better. And as for the Jets, I couldn't care less about them. They've tried to buy their way to success. They're just obviously a dysfunctional unit right now. Quarterback and head coach hate one another. Players, again.
Aaron Rodgers is calling out his offensive line for not understanding the calls, and they want to change a cadence, and Aaron Rodgers is like, they should just learn.
So do you know what I hate about this most of all? Like, I hate drafting early in fantasy drafts because every time I do, usually I pick two, I pick a running back, and they absolutely bomb. And they are destroying Breece Hall this year. I picked number 2 this year. Obviously, he's doing better than the number one overall pick, but at the same point,
Is
Brees
he?
Hall is.
Brees Hall, 10 carries, 4 yards in this game.
What's McCaffrey done? Nothing. He's not
McCaffrey
even
did
played.
more in the games that he played than Brees Hall has done.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He's meant to be the back. I remember like 4 years ago, I got Zeke off his hot year, did absolutely goal. I got Saquon 1 year when he was absolutely banged up. I hate picking running backs at 102 because
Oh,
they
yeah.
always let me down. And Brees Hall this year is letting me down big time, and it's costing my fantasy team big time. So screw you, Jets, for ruining my fantasy. I started off 2-0. I am now 0-2, and it coincides with Brees Hall being bad.
Mm.
So, but this was just an ugly game. Still not the ugliest game of the weekend, even though the other one had more points. But this is what sickos would say is too much even for them. So,
Okay, next game I'm going to put on my smug face as we go Eagles 16,
no.
Buccaneers 33 in a complete dismantling by Baker Mayfield of the awful defense that the Philadelphia Eagles put on display. For all of the personnel they have, what they are putting on tape is an absolute travesty, Ant.
yeah. I want to see here. I just want to make sure that I did it.
I don't know what your pick was. It was more just I went hard on the Eagles.
No, it's fine. I'm
game.
just double checking that I did have the Bucks to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are frauds, and the way the Bucks played us, the Bucks played us hard. They made us hurt, and they've got a much softer underbelly. The Eagles have than we do. So I always expected these guys to run all over them. I think it's clear the Sirianni era is coming to an end sooner rather than later. There,
Yeah.
But Tampa, like, I don't want to. This is a struggle. If we get to the playoffs, who would you rather play, the Bucks or the Seahawks? Because I don't want to play either one of them again, quite frankly. I think both of them are horrid matchups for us. And we played them a lot recently, but like they're one of those teams I just don't want to play them.
Are we playing either of them away because we end up losing our division and we're a wild card team, therefore?
I mean, irrelevant. Who would you not want to play? Say you're playing on a neutral field. I know we don't do neutral fields, but if you got to play one of them on a neutral field, who's the one you don't want to play?
Seahawks.
Okay, fair.
I know that we beat the Seahawks and lost to the Bucks.
I think it's a toss-up.
So for me, the way that Tampa brings pressure is by trying to overwhelm you with blitz. There's not a lot of mucking about with them. They don't disguise anything, so you've just got to work with that. But with the Seahawks, because it's simulated pressure, they actually just drop loads into coverage, and I just feel like the Seahawks on defense are a lot more threatening. But on offense, I just prefer Baker over Geno. I think Baker's a better quarterback. And Mike Evans versus DK. I mean, DK is obviously more destructive, but Mike Evans always gets his. And Chris Godwin is someone who is just so threatening.
The Bucks, like, that's one of the finest coaching jobs getting done at the minute.
Yeah.
Period. And you've got to give kudos to that. Just want to say to everyone watching as well while doing these picks, one of us went 12-4 this week. One of us went 9-7.
Oh, I didn't do very well at all in the pick watch.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I know. I've had a terrible year in the pick watch.
Who let me down? Oh, the Packers let me down.
Yeah.
The Steelers let me down.
We'll get on to some of the others in a minute.
Oh, the Jets. Fuck the Jets as well.
Yeah.
Don't know why I did that.
Right, let's go for some more. We thought the Panthers might do a bit better here, but Bengals eventually won out 34-24.
Yeah, Bengals still look bad. Panthers look okay. They're going to give everyone a game. Not going to win many, but I still think the Bengals look bad. Bad enough to lose enough games that Trey Hendrickson's going to be on the chop block in a month or two. So, still praying for that one. But, yeah, they just don't look good, really, do they? I think Zach Taylor's on a hot seat as well.
Yeah, definitely.
He's on a hot seat. Maybe not a Doug Pederson hot seat, but...
Oh, you're on that train with me now. I love it.
No, I'm not. No,
I love it.
I have to admit, like, you know, I am a man who makes mistakes, and I may have made a mistake on that one, and I will hold my hands up when I make a mistake. So, but yeah, he's on a hot seat for sure. There's quite a few of them on a hot seat at the moment. I'm interested to see who gets fired first now. But
Okay, so let's talk Jags. Texans over the Jags 24-20 in a close game where I thought the Jags looked legitimately pretty good and held the lead for some of this game. Eventually, the Texans sort themselves out, and Nico Collins went for 151 and a touchdown in this game. And the Jags are 0-4, and they go in division at home against the Colts next week, who just put in their best performance of the season. For me, just aside from this game, if the Colts go to Jacksonville and make the Jacksonville Jaguars 0-5, that's it. I think he's done.
Yeah, I could see that. If it's a massive defeat as well, if it's like one where they just down tools and they lose by 20 or 25, then I agree with you. The Texans, the Stefan Diggs rot is setting in quick. They do not look anywhere near as good as they have been in the past, and they're struggling a lot. And like I say, it came down to their hardworking grafter from Michigan, Nico Collins, to get the job done for them instead of their overpaid prima donna. But they are quite clearly not the same team this year. And he's everywhere he goes, he causes internal strife. And this is a team that doesn't. They've been figured. They're going through their sophomore year now. Nobody gave the Texans a second thought last year. Everybody's given them their best this year. Even the bad teams. Even the Jags gave them a good game, right? Every game they play, everyone's going to give them their best because they know that they're dangerous and they're potentially one of the best out there. And you're seeing a result of that now. They're struggling because everybody's playing up to them now and not taking them for granted.
All right, next game is a huge shock, I think, really, in terms of how this played out. The home team were booing, I think, halfway through the second quarter as the Washington Commanders beat the Arizona Cardinals 42-14, and Jade Daniels has taken the record amongst all NFL quarterbacks of all time through 4 games of a season, the highest completion percentage in history.
The Commodores look good this year.
Really good. I know that they have faced the Bucks, Giants, Bengals, and Cardinals.
They're
So
playing
maybe
a
it's not the high.
schedule.
Yeah, it's not the high. But
Yeah.
it's going to get harder. But it's the way that they've done it. They put 38 on the Bengals. They put 42 on the Cardinals, and they don't look fraudulent doing it.
No, they do not. I mean, you can only beat what's in front of you, right? That is the rule of thumb. You can only beat who's put in front of you, and they're coming from a bad place. They were not a good team last year. They have probably got the most improvement to make of everybody in that conference, in that division. So the fact that they're winning games is a testament to how well they do. And even if they're playing a 4th place schedule, other 4th place teams get better as well. That Cardinals team ain't a bad team. The Bengals, they're not a bad team. The Bucks, not a bad team. Like, Bucks beat us. I know they looked a little shoddy against the Giants, but when you've got a rookie quarterback and you've got a lot of new players in, you're going to have growing pains. But they look like they could be a Texans this year. They make a lot of noise in a bad conference, get a lot of wins, and all of a sudden people are very vested in them. Obviously, you've got to wait to see what happens till they start playing the likes of the Cowboys and, the Eagles. Can they do it in conference? And I think their conference games are like even later than ours. I don't think they play either of them for like another 7 or 8 weeks. But they're the ones that you've got to see, like the big conference games. Can you win that? They've obviously established they're better than the Giants this year. Where are you at compared to the Eagles and the Cowboys? Oh, they play them back to back in November, so that'll be interesting. But I mean, what have you got coming up? Browns, Ravens, Panthers, Bears, Giants, Steelers. You could win most of those games. Like, you could be looking at a 6, 7, 8 win team by the time they come around to. Sorry, 6, 7 win team by the time they come around to the Eagles and the Cowboys. Be right up there.
Yeah, I think a lot of
But
people thought they might be a 6 or 7 win team full stop, and you're saying they might be a 6 or 7 win team with about 8 games to go in the season. Like, that's insane.
I mean, they could be. You think outside of that Ravens game, like there's not one where you will put them as massive underdogs, and they just seem to have found something. Like that D line, they kept enough of it to be good, and they've added enough to it now where it's helping them out.
Hmm.
And they've invested a lot in the defense in the last few years. It's quite young, a lot of it is. So, you just gotta wait and develop like what we've gone through. We've had to develop a young defense, and it takes time, and you take your licks, but
Hmm.
you can't deny they're doing a good job. And Jaden Daniels looks terrific. If you'd have said he'd be the one quarterback out of this class who'd truly break out first, you'd have gone, yeah, maybe not sure on that one,
Yeah.
but he has.
Yeah. All right. Continuing on, we've got a few more games to talk about. Patriots 13, 49ers 30 in an uncompetitive game.
Oh yeah, it was awful, wasn't it? Patriots ringers fell out of it now.
Yeah. I don't want to say any more on that game, to be honest. If you were talking about Sicko's game, this might be the one. Browns 16, Raiders 20 in a terrible
Oh no.
game. No?
Oh, it was terrible. No, this wasn't the Sickos one, but it's
Oh, the Sicko's one's coming later.
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sickos one's coming later. But at this point, it's just funny with the Browns, right? I mean, I shouldn't laugh because I've been Detroit so many times over the years, but they've brought it on themselves. Like what they did to Baker is just like, maybe you should have stuck with him. Maybe you'd have something good going at this point. But I mean, they're stacking up injuries, man. They are a hurt team, and it's just getting worse for them. And it'll be a matter of time before Deshaun decides that he's not had enough massages in his life and downs tools and goes on IR. But it's sad to see. Like there's such a difference. People thought, are we going to be a Browns from a few years ago? It was quite clear a few years ago the Browns bought their way to that playoff run. They'd not made sustainable groundwork on that team. They'd not got a young core built through the draft to carry on doing it. They bought their way there, and now they've just gone back into purgatory again, and they've got to start drafting properly once more. Because there is some talent there, but they don't have the spine or the backbone of the team on the roster to be a competitive team going forward. And that contract on the quarterback is killing them.
Yeah.
Like, just completely killing them. They should go and draft the quarterback next year. Honestly, they should.
Yeah,
Even if
they
he's
definitely
there.
should. Even though they don't have a first round pick still because of him,
No.
I don't think.
But they can go and get they can go and get a second tier guy they can sit like Jordan Love for 2 or 3 years while Watson's contract sees out. They need to start making that change as soon as possible. They need to get the next guy in the building.
If I'm right about Cam Ward, they could potentially trade up to go and get him.
No. I love Cam Ward. I do not want to see him rot away in that cesspit.
No, I don't either. I mean,
Sorry,
for the good of the league in general, and the Browns in particular, Watson should fall on his sword. That's not euphemism. I really mean he should just retire. Like he's not.
They don't have a first round pick. Did you say? Damn it! I'd love to see Shadul go there.
Oh,
I just want him to have
toxicity.
I want him to, yeah. Oh yeah. That'd be sweet. That'd be sickos stuff, which we could just be like, yeah.
I actually, I would not be surprised to see the Georgia quarterback go there because it kind of feels like they'll be in the realm to get him in the second round, and
yeah, maybe.
Anyway, carrying on, Chiefs over the Chargers 17-10. Chargers got out to a 10-0 lead in the first quarter and then didn't score again.
I know it. Ugh. They're too far away at the minute. I mean, it didn't help. They were missing they're missing both tackles. They're missing a whole slew of players at the minute. The Chargers are.
Yeah.
And you could kind of tell they were They were what a Harbaugh team is. They were plucky. They went toe to toe to start with. Kansas did not get it easy in this game. And if that had been a full strength Chargers team, I actually could have seen the Chiefs losing that. But just too many injuries, and Kansas just kind of wear you down. And if they can't wear you down, they pay the refs to give you penalties that wear you down, and it's just a tough situation. But they were good.
Yeah.
for a portion of this, but you can see there's a lot of work still to be done there. They're a team that needs a complete facelift. They're another who's just had in a ton of vets on really big contracts, and they've not built a sustainable underbelly of their own young players. That's what Jim Harbaugh will do for them, but it's going to take time. So I think for the next year or two, they are going to be a subpar team, and then you'll start to see them come back to life again. But that's the route they should take.
Yeah.
Stop kidding yourself that you're a fringe playoff team and just go do that tank properly.
2 more games to go. First one, I need to eat some humble pie as the Ravens dismantle the Bills 35-10 with Derrick Henry a yard away from 200 on the ground.
See, this was a win-win. Either the Bills were going to get absolutely trounced like they did, or the Ravens were going to go 1-3. I would probably have actually liked the Bills to win this one. I just want the Ravens to really suffer. But there is a gulf there, right? There is a gulf. As much as the Bills, and I will say the Bills have been better than I thought they were going to be this year. But what you saw in that game was the talent gap that's opened up between those two. Like the Ravens and the Bills used to be on a similar footing just behind the Chiefs as to who's going to go and get them. But you've seen the Ravens take a step forward because they're building their roster really well through the draft and they're paying a little bit better. Whereas with the Bills, you've seen a lot of veterans leave the building. And you've seen a lot of productivity leave the building, and they're struggling a little bit more. So there is a hierarchy now. The Bills are not in the top 2 teams in the AFC anymore. Don't know if there's anyone else who gets in there at the minute. It still might be 3, but the gap's big. This was not really that competitive.
No, it was not. And here we go, the final game, the one that was alongside the Lions game in the doubleheader, the absolute sickos game, Titans over the Dolphins 31-12, where the passing leader was Tyler Huntley with 96 yards. And
watching the Titans is like watching a game of football with bleach in my eyes. I just hate everything about them. I know they got 31 points in this, but they're coming up against a one-dimensional Miami offense, which has lost its dimension. And unfortunately, we were talking about this in Discord earlier. Great offenses, like the Lions, if their plan A gets stopped, we do have a plan B we can run to. Like, if teams stop us running the ball, we can air it out enough to win games of football. We have done that before. We don't rely entirely on motion and trickeration and moving before the snap, all this sort of stuff. Once that gets figured out, the Dolphins don't have a good enough ground and pound run game to play traditionally. So when the fancy stuff gets figured, their offensive line ain't that good either. So the quarterbacks are struggling with pass pro, which is not, suitable. They're a bad team. They are a completely one-dimensional offense. And speaking of, guess who else is in my fantasy team? Jalen Waddle. So me, being right smug going, you got Breece Hall and Jalen Waddle, 2 high productivity players at skill positions and need, 2 of my highest picks in the draft. Jalen Waddle is sat there doing absolutely nothing at the minute because he's not got a quarterback to throw at him, and Breece Hall has a dickhead for his quarterback who won't hand him the ball. So I kind of feel like the stars are aligned against me in fantasy this year, but Mike McDaniel's going to get fired this year. And he should get fired this year because he's a good rah-rah talker. He's not a good head coach. He's a good players coach. He's not a good head coach. He would be great as an assistant head coach somewhere, not the one in the top job. And I actually think, he might get more leeway because his quarterback's injured, but he's not in Miami next year. And it's not voluntarily either.
Yeah, I think his neck is on the line, even with or without Tua. Tua will come back at some point, so... Well, you would think so. Concussions are funny things, aren't they? Sometimes they last for an entire season or longer. Sometimes it's a one-game thing or not even that, so...
Just, with how weak... With the Patriots been as weak as they are... The Bills on the decline and the Jets that is not a competitive conference at the moment. Not like it's been in recent years.
Yeah.
It's there to be taken, and they're technically in their window now, right? They've paid a lot of vets to go there.
Yeah.
and to win now, like that is a vet heavy team, and they're. Did you see that wonderful stat? They have not led this season. Did you see that?
The Dolphins.
The Dolphins,
Yeah.
the Miami Dolphins, through 4 weeks of the NFL season, have not held the lead in a game of football. Like the next lowest team is at about 25 minutes. So that's nearly a half of football. I think it's the Rams as well. So the Rams might be the Rams, but of course they've
Yeah.
had a load of injuries. But not a single, not 1 second
Have they led a game? Yeah, it's shocking.
And you look at the teams they've played against. It's they're not good. Titans though are fucking awful. If I had to compile a list of the 10 worst games of the NFL I've ever watched in my life, I reckon the Titans would be on, I'd say at least 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, they've been poor and they will continue to be poor. The thing is, their O-line now is actually good enough now. They've got rid of Derrick Henry and their rushing attack with Pollard and Spears is good enough that they will nick some games. They're not going to be as good as I thought they would be because Levis just isn't it. And I think I was right about Levis in the draft process that he's just not an NFL quarterback. He definitely doesn't mesh with this head coach, and so he's not going to succeed here if the head coach remains. But they're not going to be a good watch for the rest of the season. So, yeah. All right. We've been going long on this one, so anything else you want to talk about before we sign off?
I think we covered the game pretty well. No?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Cool. All right. So, the next show is going to be the College Football Podcast whenever it airs, whether that's Friday or Saturday this coming week. We are off this Thursday because, of course, it's a bye week, so there's no game to preview. We're going to be back next week, Monday, for a quarter season review, and then the Dallas Cowboys preview show I think is going to be on Friday night. It depends on team availability, but I'm not around on Thursday, unfortunately. So keep your eyes peeled on YouTube for when the shows are scheduled, because that'll be king. Once we've decided, I'll put it up there so you guys know. Look out for the College Pod. It's going to be a barnstormer with all the really fun games that happen this weekend. The Tigers are top of the 9th with 2 outs and 3-0 up against the Houston Astros. So just need to survive one more innings to go 1-0 up in the ALWCS. Hopefully they can get over the line. You know where to find us on our socials. Please do support us all through that. Like some of Ant's tweets, shithousing some of the fans from around the league because it's good fun. And cheers for doing this with me, buddy. We'll see you later on in the week for the College Show. But for now, let's go Lions. One pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.